Chapter 337. After fifth great-uncle and this purple mansion elder exchanged some pleasantries, Wang Daoyuan followed him to the Netherworld sect. The two of them rode on the extremely fast third-grade flying boat. It only took half a day to reach the Darkwater Valley from Jade Spring Peak. Along the way, this purple mansion elder did his best to worm his way into being friends with him. From their conversation, he learned that this person was an old clan cultivator from the southern part of Qingli County, named Jiang Jingming. The Jiang clan he belonged to was a 1,000-year-old clan, but it had always been lukewarm and didn't produce any powerful figures. It also didn't suffer much damage during the war between the three sections. It wasn't until he became a purple mansion cultivator that the Jiang clan became powerful. However, Jiang Jingming's talent was only above average, and he had basically reached the end of his cultivation at the middle stage of the purple mansion realm. He also didn't have any special skills, and would only be an elder with no duties in this lifetime. After he passed away, the Jiang clan would still decline. Wang Daoyuan was highly regarded by the sect head, and the sect head personally said that he would definitely establish his purple mansion in 20 or 30 years. Now he was only at the foundation establishment stage, but he had the authority to manage the clan. After establishing his purple mansion, he would directly become an elder with real power. In the future, it wouldn't be impossible for him to become a hall master. If he could worm his way into being friends with the Jiang clan in the future, when the Wang clan became powerful, it would be easier for him to take care of the Jiang clan. Wang Daoyuan was naturally well aware of Jiang Jingming's thoughts. However, it was better for someone to worm their way into being friends with him than to be enemies with him. The two of them chatted along the way, and soon arrived at the Darkwater Valley where the Netherworld sect was located. Jiang Jingming came out on a mission from the sect head, so he didn't need to be checked when entering or leaving the sect. After the two of them entered the sect, Wang Daoyuan wanted to follow the rules and directly walk up the stone steps to the highest meeting hall. Jiang Jingming waved his hand and said, "Steward Wang, you don't need to walk up. The sect head has already instructed that you can directly fly up on your sword after coming here." Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, "This treatment is probably equivalent to the ancient times of the world in my previous life. This is standard for powerful officials, and not a good thing. To be cautious, it's better to obediently follow the rules." He did not fly up on his sword. Instead, he walked up step by step along the stone steps. The Netherworld sect didn't have any rules about the behavior of its disciples, so Wang Daoyuan ran a little faster. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, he had already run over 10 miles of stairs. After entering the conference hall, Luo Juyo sat at the head of the table, while the other Violet Mansion elders sat on the east and west sides. Luo Juyo smiled and asked, "Daoyuan, I allowed you to fly up on your sword. Why did you run up here?" Wang Daoyuan bowed and said, "Even Zifu disciples are unable to directly fly over the stone steps in front of the gate. I am merely a foundation establishment cultivator. How would I dare violate the rules of the sect?" Luo Juyo nodded with satisfaction and said, "You've made great contributions to the sect many times, yet you can still be so humble. You've made a lot of contributions to the sect in refining flying warships, but due to the circumstances, you were only given the position and authority of the refining hall's steward. You were the first to discover the enemy's sneak attack in the 3 forts east of Wuchengguan and reported it to Palace Master Gu. It was also you, with the cooperation of Elder Liang, who used a formation to break the lifeblood magic artifact of that Zifu disciple from the Kingdom of Song. You caused him to be heavily injured, giving us a chance to fight. During the battle, as the head of logistics, you commanded everyone to repair a total of 130 flying warships, 70 of which belonged to our Netherworld sect. You personally saved 479 Foundation establishment cultivators, 290 of which belonged to our Netherworld sect. If it weren't for you, the number of sect disciples who died in this final battle would have been many times greater. Although you didn't personally participate in the battle, your contributions added together are greater than the vast majority of Zifu disciples who participated in the battle. What reward do you want? Just tell me. As long as it's something I can give, I'll give it to you." What Wang Daoyuan needed the most right now was naturally the yin-yang purple jade. But Luo Juyo wouldn't be willing to give it to him. There was a high chance that he wouldn't be able to get it. Even if he gave him face, he would inevitably hate him in the future. If a golden core cultivator hated him, his life would be in danger, and he might even implicate his clan. If he asked for the yin-yang purple jade, the risk of being hated was 100%. The probability of getting it was not high. He had already made progress in getting the yin-yang purple jade from Blood Shadow, so there was no need to take this risk. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "The refining of the flying warships, and the subsequent repair of the flying warships, were all thanks to the concerted efforts of many Daoyu. It wasn't the work of me alone. As for treating the injured Daoyu, I used the Dharma spell that you bestowed upon me, Sect Master. In terms of contributions, Sect Master's contributions are greater. I did all these things because of my own responsibility. I dare not claim credit for it." No matter how hard one tried, flattery would never work. After hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, even though Luo Juyo had lived for hundreds of years, and was also an old fox, he was still very happy. When those in power nurtured talents, what they cared about the most was nothing more than loyalty, talent, and gratitude. Wang Daoyuan had all of these. At least he seemed to be a loyal person, so Luo Juyo was naturally very satisfied. Luo Juyo's face was full of smiles. "You're young, but you're able to not be arrogant. Very good. However, if I don't reward you, people will say that I don't know how to reward and punish you. Since you're not asking, I'll reward you with something good. You're now at the 8th level of Foundation Establishment, and not far from establishing your Violet Palace. Once you reach the Violet Palace realm, you'll have to refine your natal magic weapon. I happen to have a set of refining methods for the 5 elements natal magic weapons. It's of the same origin as the 5 elements devil suppression seal that I gave you before, so they can complement each other. I originally wanted to give it to you after you established your Violet Palace. Since you've made a great contribution, I'll give it to you in advance, so that you can collect the materials in advance. I also have some materials for refining one of the magic weapons, so I'll give it to you as well. In addition, you defended the 3 eastern fortresses of Wuqing Pass, saved many cultivators of the Myriad Spirit sect, and repaired their flying ships. They also rewarded you." With that, Luo Juyo waved his hand, and 2 storage bags flew to Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan caught the storage bags and bowed. "Thank you for your reward, Sect Master." Hearing Luo Juyo mention establishing his Violet Palace, Wang Daoyuan was really a little excited. He thought that Luo Juyo had suddenly become generous and rewarded him with a piece of yin-yang purple jade. But he didn't expect it to be the refining method for the natal magic weapon. The method of refining a natal Dharma artifact included the selection of materials, refining, and nurturing of the natal Dharma artifact. The Wang clan was once a golden core clan, so they naturally had the refining method for the natal magic weapon. However, the refining method left behind by the ancestor was to refine a long sword of the water attribute. This refining method was very suitable for the 12th uncle and 5th uncle, but it wasn't very useful for Wang Daoyuan. Luo Juyo rewarding him with the refining method for the 5 elements magic weapon was quite useful. In particular, he also rewarded him with the materials for refining the magic weapon. These things were quite good. The materials for refining the natal magic weapon were particularly difficult to find. Even if it was the most common natal magic artifact, the materials required would be at least of the 3rd level of the lower grade. Now that he could get some, he could save a lot of effort. After the rewards were given, Wang Daoyuan consciously retreated to the last seat of the elders, waiting for the sect master to reward the others according to their merits. Those who were rewarded were mostly cultivators who participated in the final battle and made a lot of contributions. Among them was Su Tingxian. He had Wang Daoyuan to help him repair the flying warship, so he fought bravely in every battle. When the warship was damaged, it ran back to the 3 eastern fortresses to be repaired. After it was repaired, it was still the same. Relying on his desperation, Su Tingxian commanded the flying warship to kill 3 Violet Palace realm cultivators and more than 20 Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators from the Song Kingdom. He also destroyed 2 of the Song Kingdom's flying warships. The rewards given by Luo Juyo weren't very precious, just some spirit stones and a refining inheritance. However, Su Tingxian was recommended by the refining hall to obtain the Yin Yang Purple Jade. In addition, he had made a great contribution, so the probability of obtaining the Yin Yang Purple Jade was very high. Chapter 338. After everyone received their rewards, the crowd dispersed. Wang Daoyuan also bid farewell and left. He did not want to reveal what Luo Juyo gave him. He would wait until he returned to Jade Spring Peak. The one who sent him back was still Jiang Jingming. After returning to Jade Spring Peak, he greeted the 12th uncle and returned to his cave abode to check on the quality of the intrinsic dermic artifact that Luo Juyo gave him. He opened the storage bag and saw a beast skin book and a piece of metal that was about a foot in diameter and was almost spherical. The value of this metal material was not low. It was middle grade 3 Heaven Ferocious Metal. The Heaven Ferocious Metal was formed when a metal or vein came into contact with an Earth Ferocious Spirit vein. It was perfect for making offensive dermic weapons. Wang Daoyuan had always planned to use the Heaven Ferocious Metal to condense a metal-type spirit power seed if he could not find a metal-type spirit fire. Just from the fact that it was made with the Heaven Ferocious Metal, this intrinsic dermic artifact was not weak. Such a large piece of middle grade 3 Heaven Ferocious Metal was worth at least 200,000 spirit stones. Luo Juyo could be considered to have spent some money. As for the Beast Skin Book, the words 5 Elements Demon Suppression Seal Sacrificial Refinement Technique were written on the cover. As expected, this thing was used together with the 5 Elements Demon Suppression Seal dermic art that he had obtained previously. Wang Daoyuan cursed internally. This Luo Juyo is such a bastard. He exchanged the Golden Rock Fighting Dragon technique with me, and even split the inheritance into 2. I'm curious. How can a dermic art created by a golden core be so weak? The main offensive dermic art, White Tiger Blade, is inferior to the grade 3 dermic art, Meteor Fall. And the name is so weird. It doesn't seem like the name of a dermic art, but a dermic weapon. After all this fuss, these dermic arts are the supplementary dermic arts of the intrinsic dermic artifact. And this Azure Dragon Pearl, after absorbing vitality, it can only be used by the body. There is no way to store it. How can a golden core be so stupid as to allow precious vitality to flow away? He forced me to use the Spirit Gathering Pearl to store vitality, and the amount stored is not much. So the inheritance is incomplete, and there is no dermic weapon. After cursing internally, he felt much better. Looking at the content carefully, he decided to curse again. Originally, he thought that he had given him a complete spell, but it turned out that even the spell was incomplete. In addition to the refining of magic tools, there were more details on how to cast spells. For example, the Azure Dragon Pearl could be used in conjunction with the intrinsic Dharma artifact. An Azure Dragon Phantom would fly out and extract the target's life force. It could also release life force to heal. This was a magic tool with a strong attacking effect, and it was an area of effect attack. Of course, the attack range was not far. When a natal magic artifact reached the 3rd tier, lower grade, it could only attack enemies within a range of 30 meters. As the grade of the intrinsic dermic artifact increased, its range of attack would also increase. However, the range of the attack was too small. It wasn't very useful against enemies who liked to kill with flying swords or use long-range spells. It was especially effective against body-refining cultivators and demonic beasts that liked to get close to each other, as well as against spirit insects that attacked at close range. The White Tiger Blade came with a set of sword techniques. It could barely be considered a sword cultivation inheritance. However, the White Tiger Sword technique was not like the inheritance of the Beiyuan sword sect, which came with many sword cultivation techniques. The White Tiger Sword technique only had a unique sword manipulation technique and a method to comprehend the White Tiger Sword intent. Sword intent was the essence of sword cultivation. Only by comprehending sword intent and using sword intent to nurture the intrinsic flying sword Dharma artifact could one reach the pinnacle of sword cultivation. one with the sword. The Beiyuan sword technique that Wang Daoyuan learned only had the sword manipulation technique. It didn't have the method to comprehend sword intent, so the inheritance was incomplete. The white tiger sword technique was not bad. After refining the white tiger blade and cultivating sword intent, he could barely be considered a sword cultivator. Although he didn't have the willpower of a sword cultivator, as long as the Dharma artifact was good enough, and the spells were good enough, how could the lethality be bad? Next, he looked at the materials needed to refine the 5 combined Dharma artifacts, and wanted to curse. The refining materials were really rare, and some of them couldn't even be bought with money. The Azure Dragon Pearl required the least refining materials. There was only one type. However, this one type of material made him despair. The refining material of the Azure Dragon Pearl was a fake Dragon Pearl. It would be better if he could get a real Dragon Pearl. The Dragon Pearl was the inner core of a dragon. Because dragons were divine beasts, they were special. Therefore, their inner cores were different from other beasts. The strength of the Dragon Pearl was extremely high. It was far superior to defensive Dharma artifacts of the same level. The Dragon Clan could directly use the Dragon Pearl to attack the enemy, unlike other beasts, who spat out their inner cores. The fake Dragon Pearl was the inner core of a dragon bloodline beast. The inner core could be called a fake Dragon Pearl. Needless to say, its strength was far superior to that of ordinary beasts. It could also be spat out as a Dharma artifact to fight with the enemy. A dragon bloodline beast that could condense a fake Dragon Pearl was definitely not low in concentration of dragon bloodline. Moreover, a dragon bloodline beast that could condense a fake Dragon Pearl was at least a 3rd tier inferior grade 1. The higher the concentration of dragon bloodline, the earlier the fake Dragon Pearl was condensed, and the stronger the fake Dragon Pearl. However, correspondingly, the dragon bloodline beast's strength was stronger. Dragon bloodline beasts were very rare now, but there were still some. For example, the Flood Dragon of the 1,000 Spirit Sect's Immortal Dragon. The Flood Dragon had a higher concentration of dragon bloodline among the dragon bloodline beasts. To be called a dragon, it definitely had a fake Dragon Pearl. However, the Flood Dragon was a 4th tier inferior grade. 100 of him would not be enough to blow it away. The materials for the White Tiger Blade were also extremely difficult to find. It required Sky Demon Gold and Tai Gold. Luo Jiuyo gave him a piece of Sky Demon Gold, which was enough. Tai Gold was harder to find. Tai Gold was generally a 4th tier metal attribute material. It was the strongest among the 4th tier materials. It was born in a place with rich Gung Jin Qi, and contained a strong murderous aura. It was used to refine flying swords. Its lethality was amazing. With Tai Gold and Sky Demon Gold as the main materials, the White Tiger Blade was worthy of its name. The Tai Gold that absorbed less Gung Jin Qi might be a 3rd tier material, but it was also extremely rare. The materials for the Suzaku fan were much better. It required 5 3rd tier middle grade, or superior grade inferior attribute beast's life feathers, and a 3rd tier middle grade inferior attribute spiritual wood. To refine the Suzaku fan, he needed to kill 5 different 3rd tier middle grade inferior attribute beasts. Just thinking about it made him feel like a joke. The Black Tortoise Shield required a 3rd tier middle grade spiritual spring pearl, or a water attribute spirit vein essence. This should be the easiest to find. There was a 3rd tier water attribute spirit vein under his feet. However, the Jade Dragon Spring was the foundation of the Wang clan. It could not be destroyed. In terms of the value of materials, the other 4 artifacts were nothing. Of the 5 artifacts, the core of the Kirin Seal had the most valuable materials. The main materials were the Earth Essence and the Heaven Suppressing Stone. The Earth Essence was a treasure that could only be nurtured by a 4th tier Earth attribute spirit vein for tens of thousands of years. The Heaven Suppressing Stone was a 4th tier Earth attribute material. Its biggest feature was its weight and sturdiness. A finger-sized Heaven Suppressing Stone weighed a few hundred kilograms. More importantly, it was sold in taels. Any artifact refined from it would have strong suppressive abilities. Wang Daoyuan did have the Heaven Suppressing Stone. The 5 elements Heaven Suppressing Seal left behind by the 5 elements Venerable used a lot of it. The 5 elements Heaven Suppressing Seal was the core of the 5 elements Secret Realm. It could not be touched at all. With Wang Daoyuan's current cultivation, he could not even activate it, let alone destroy it. To refine all 5 artifacts, he would need to spend tens of millions of spirit stones or even more. Moreover, many of the materials were things that had not been seen for many years. It was too difficult to find them. It was almost impossible to refine all 5 artifacts before reaching the golden core stage. Seeing the difficulty of refining these artifacts, Wang Daoyuan wanted to give up. However, when he thought of its powerful power, and the fact that it could combine 5 artifacts into one to form the 5 elements devil-subduing seal, its power was needless to say. The reward that Luo Jiuyo gave him was too deceptive. It was of no use to his current strength, but it made him very envious. Chapter 339. Wang Daoyuan stored the heaven-hellish gold and the sacrificial refining technique in the spirit pearl. Then he took out the storage bag he received from the Thousand Spirit sect. After opening the storage bag, he was quite satisfied. There were 30,000 spirit stones and a few third-grade talismans inside. The Thousand Spirit sect was much more generous, unlike Luo Jiuyo, who gave him a reward and made him feel disgusted. Although 30,000 spirit stones were not much, he needed them now to exchange for the yin-yang purple jade. 30,000 spirit stones would be of great use. After the rewards were given, the aftermath of the Battle of Wuqing Pass had nothing to do with Wang Daoyuan. There was nothing for him to manage in the family, so he went directly to the cave abode on Jade Pine Mountain to cultivate in seclusion. He could also protect the safety of Jade Pine Mountain and restrain the Thunder Ape to prevent it from causing trouble. In the Spirit Pearl, the spiritual herbs for refining the Meridian Shield pill had not matured yet, so he could not try refining a third-grade pill now. He was not in a hurry to make talismans. He cut down the white jade spiritual mulberry and planted the blood dragon wood. The bark of the blood dragon wood could be used to make third-grade talismans, but it needed to be a third-grade spiritual wood. At present, only the blood dragon wood that he had obtained at the beginning had reached the 3rd stage. The other saplings were only at the 2nd stage of the lower grade. With only 1 third-grade blood dragon wood, the talisman paper he made would not be enough for him to practice making talismans. There was a more stable supply of spiritual ink. After Wang Jian cleared the 100 Spirit Mountain monsters, the Shun family of Danshan Mountain kept their promise and sold more than 50 kilograms of third-grade cinnabar, or to the Wang family every year. It was not difficult to make talisman brushes. He was a third-grade blacksmith himself, so he could make them himself when he needed them. When he had a large amount of third-grade blood dragon wood, he could make third-grade talismans. The Yellow Spring Willow he got from the Yellow Spring Secret Realm and planted next to the Gui Water Death Flame had really survived. However, the Gui Water Death Flame only produced Yin Qi and not Death Qi. In addition, the Life Spirit Fire continuously produced vitality and consumed the Death Qi. The Death Qi on the Yellow Spring Willow had become very thin, and now the bark had turned from yellow to black. Because this was a legendary item, the Beiyuan records left by the 5 Elements spiritual master did not explain it clearly. It only mentioned that this thing had something to do with souls. He had no idea what it was for, so he could only let it grow for the time being. The most important thing now was to raise his cultivation. He swallowed a core condensing pill and sat down to meditate. With sufficient resources, Wang Daoyuan's cultivation improved very quickly. In just 5 years, he successfully broke through to the 9th level of foundation establishment. Originally, he wanted to raise his cultivation to the peak of foundation establishment in one go. However, bad news came from his family. His elder brother, Wang Meng, was critically ill. Wang Meng was now 97 years old. Among mortals, he was considered old. After all, he was his own brother. He had to go back and send him off. He flew back to Qingxi village on his sword. Wang Meng's courtyard house was already filled with people. Wang Meng had many children and grandchildren. His oldest great-great-grandson was already over 10 years old. After Wang Daoyuan landed, everyone kowtowed and saluted him, calling him second uncle, second grandpa, great-grandfather, and ancestor. He waved his hand, and a gust of wind blew past, helping everyone up. The crowd automatically dispersed to the sides, and Wang Daoyuan walked into the main building. Wang Meng was lying on the bed. Seeing him come in, he tried to sit up. Wang Daoyuan stopped him, saying, "Brother, there's no need to get up. If you have any unfulfilled wishes, just tell me. I'll do my best to help you." With that, he used the Tsang Dragon Pearl to replenish his brother's life force, so that he would have some strength to speak. Wang Meng let out a long sigh, saying, "I've lived a rich life with many children and grandchildren. My only wish is to enter the ancestral temple." Fortunately, Mingshan did not disappoint. Although he can't enter the ancestral temple now, there will be a chance in the future. If he has any difficulties, I hope you can help him. Also, Big Black, after our parents passed away, I wanted it to go with you, but it was unwilling. It has protected our family for 100 years, and our family has delayed it for 100 years. Now that my time is up, there's nothing left in Qingxi village for it to be attached to. Bring it to the family's spiritual mountain to cultivate. Wang Daoyuan nodded, saying, "Don't worry, brother. I've already prepared for Mingshan's foundation establishment. I'll bring Big Black to a place with spiritual veins to cultivate. It saved my life, so I won't treat it unfairly." At that moment, Big Black ran in from outside. Wang Daoyuan was not often at home, and he had not seen Big Black for a long time. It had already become a second-rank low-grade spirit beast. This fellow had a very high status in the Wang family. Wang Meng's descendants grew up under its protection and were very respectful to it. Big Black walked to the bed and rubbed its head against Wang Meng's. Wang Meng touched its head, saying, "Big Black, I'm leaving. You can follow second baby from now on. In order to protect our family, it delayed us for 100 years. You can follow second baby from now on and cultivate well." Big Black let out a sorrowful whimper and nodded after a long time. With a smile on his face, Wang Meng slowly closed his eyes. Wang Daoyuan walked out with tears in his eyes. With his brother gone, there was one less person in his heart that he cared about. As he walked out of the courtyard with Big Black, a deafening cry came from the courtyard. Wang Daoyuan looked back at the courtyard, but it no longer felt like home. Home was where his parents and relatives were. His parents and brother were gone. Even if there were tens of thousands of houses, they were just houses. Over the years, Dahe had been ruling over the villages and recruiting rebels. It had gathered 200 to 300 black cloud wolves. Among them, there were a dozen black cloud wolves that were very close to Big Black. Their aura was very similar to Big Black's, so they should be its descendants. With so many black cloud wolves, if they did not take them away, without Big Black to suppress them, they might attack the villagers. Over the years, the family had attached great importance to Mirror Iron Mountain and arranged a lot of people there. The surrounding demonic beasts had already been cleared. In addition, the wolves had stayed nearby for decades, so there were no wild beasts in the area. Qingxi village did not need the protection of the wolves, so they simply took them away. Jade Spring Peak could not keep 200 to 300 black cloud wolves, so it was better to take them to Fallen Dragon Ridge. Fallen Dragon Ridge was more than 1,000 miles long, and the family did not have enough manpower to occupy it all. This group of black cloud wolves could help to guard the territory and prevent other demonic beasts from occupying it. Although the black cloud wolves' cultivation was not high, few rank 2 demonic beasts were willing to provoke them. Moreover, the Thunder Ape was there. The few hotheads who were not afraid of the black cloud wolves would have to consider if they were a match for the Thunder Ape. With so many black cloud wolves, the flying boat could not hold them, so they could only run to Fallen Dragon Ridge. Fortunately, Fallen Dragon Ridge was not too far from Qingxi village. It was only about 2,000 miles in a straight line. Wang Daoyuan did not take a detour from Linji Mountain. Instead, he led the wolves through the territories of other demonic beasts for 2,000 miles. Most of the demonic beasts in this area had been harmed by the Thunder Ape, so they usually stayed in their nests and did not dare to run around. In addition, with Wang Daoyuan around, a few demonic beasts were not convinced and were beaten up by him. Demonic beasts had stronger bodies and better endurance than humans. They ran all the way and arrived at Fallen Dragon Ridge in less than a day. Wang Daoyuan pointed to the entire mountain range and said to Big Black, "In the future, you will lead the wolves and stay in this mountain range. You can fight any demonic beasts you want. However, the people on this mountain are all my clansmen, so you can't hurt them. As a rank 2 demonic beast, Big Black could naturally understand human language and nodded. Later, Wang Daoyuan took it to meet the Thunder Ape, Yin Yi and Golden Wings. These guys were not good-tempered. He had to let them know in advance that they were a family, so that their spirit beasts would not fight. While Wang Daoyuan was walking Big Black, the 12th uncle sent a message that there was an important matter in the family, and he needed to be there to discuss it. Chapter 340. Wang Daoyuan asked Dahei to familiarize himself with the environment of Fallen Dragon Ridge. Now the biggest danger in Fallen Dragon Ridge was the Thunder Ape. As long as he had a good relationship with the Thunder Ape, he could do whatever he wanted in Fallen Dragon Ridge. Dahei and the Thunder Ape had already known each other. The Thunder Ape had always been better at provoking people than itself. It would not bully Dahei, so there was no need to worry about its safety. Wang Daoyuan flew back to Jade Spring Peak on his sword. The 12th uncle greeted him by the Jade Dragon Spring and took him directly to the auditorium, without saying anything. Entering the auditorium, he saw Liang Liang and Liang Jiaxing, the head of the Liang family, talking to Liang Liang. Wang Daoyuan bowed to the 5th uncle, and then cupped his hands to Liang Liang. Greetings, Elder Liang. After all, Liang Liang was also an elder of the Ghost sect. Although the two families were not on good terms, the most basic etiquette was still necessary. However, after 5 years, Liang Liang's temperament had changed greatly. 5 years ago, although he also had white hair, he was hale and hearty, looking like an immortal with white hair and a youthful face. At this time, Liang Liang looked haggard with dull eyes and sunken cheeks. He did not look like a cultivator at all. He was clearly an ordinary old man, who did not have much time left. Liang Liang and Liang Jiaxing also bowed. Greetings, Steward Wang. The 5th uncle said with a smile. Elder Liang, now that Daoyuan is also here, can you tell me what you want to say? Liang Liang asked. Steward Wang, I wonder if what you said 5 years ago in Wuqing Pass still counts? Wang Daoyuan thought for a moment and said, Elder Liang, are you talking about what I said when I asked you to help me block the crossbow arrows? Of course, I mean what I said. I said that day that the 12th uncle and I could return safely, and it was only a matter of time before the Wang family became a Jindan family in the future. At that time, the Wang family will focus on the Sky Chop mountain range. It doesn't matter whether the Liang family is destroyed or not. A Jindan family can still tolerate the Liang family. However, the premise is that the Liang family does not court death. If the Liang family continues to use the power of the foreign family to suppress the Wang family, then we have to do it. Liang Liang then asked Wang Jian, Elder Wang, is that what you mean? Wang Jian smiled and said, I have no objections. I'm not in charge now. Shui and Daoyuan are the ones in charge of the family's affairs. If they say it's okay, then it's okay. Wang Shui also nodded and said, If it's Daoyuan, I have no objections. Liang Liang's face lit up. He knew that he didn't have many days left to live. All these years, the Liang family had offended many people in order to fight for benefits. None of the Liang clan's disciples had the potential to establish the Violet Palace. In addition, the Wang clan already had a Zifu disciple. Wang Shui was the hope of the Wang clan. Establishing a Zifu disciple wasn't a problem at all. Furthermore, Wang Daoyuan had been told by the sect master that it wouldn't take long for him to establish his Violet Palace. The words of a golden core cultivator were naturally trustworthy. In a few decades, the Wang clan would have 3 Violet mansions. In addition, in the south, there was the Zifu clan, the Yang clan. Yang Yong still had a few decades left to live. In addition, Yang Yulin of the Yang clan was also a Zifu seedling. In the future, the Liang clan would no longer have any Zifu disciples, but would be sandwiched between 2 Zifu clans. Unfortunately, the Liang clan had enmity with both the Wang and Yang clans. They didn't even have the chance to rely on their thighs to protect themselves. Without a Zifu disciple, the Liang clan would only be a slightly stronger foundation establishment clan. How could they withstand the combined pressure of 2 Zifu clans? Wang Daoyuan saw that he was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth and sneered. Elder Liang, Don't be happy too early. My Wang clan isn't interested in destroying the Liang clan. But we also won't watch as the Liang clan occupies my Wang clan's ancestral property. Hearing this, Liang Liang's expression changed. He asked, "What does Manager Wang want to do?" "My Wang clan only wants the east of Clear Glass River and the north of Clear Stream. This was the fief of my clan's ancestor in the past, and is also the Wang clan's territory recognized by the Netherworld sect. We don't care about the other territories, nor are we interested in caring. Of course, we can't take it back now. That would force the Liang clan into a dead end. The Liang clan can continue to stay here and move away after finding another spirit mountain. I think that the Yang clan should only care about the territory south of Clear Stream and won't care about the other territories. As for where the Liang clan will find a spirit mountain in the future, our Wang clan won't care. After all, us cultivation clans are nothing more than for the clan to have a bit more cultivators and occupy a bit more property. If we can take back our ancestral property without having to do anything, we'll naturally be very happy," Wang Daoyuan said with a fake smile. Hearing this, Liang Liang and Liang Jiaxing both fell into deep thought. Although they already thought that the Wang clan might want territory, they didn't think that the Wang clan's appetite would be so big, taking back all of the Wang clan's territory that they've occupied for nearly 400 years. The east, south and north are the territories of the Wang and Yang clans. The Wang clan doesn't care about the west of Clear Glass River. That's hinting to take care of the Meng clan. After a while, Liang Liang asked, "You're talking about the Meng clan?" Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "I didn't say anything. I was just asking for a debt from the Liang clan. I wonder when the Liang clan will return my Wang clan's property." Liang Liang also smiled knowingly. When the Liang clan takes down Ash Cloud Peak, they'll return the territory east of Clear Glass River and north of Clear Stream. Wang Daoyuan's meaning was to let the Liang clan swallow up the Meng clan, and the Wang clan take back their ancestral property. Those territories occupied by the Liang clan are all the essence. This way, without having to use weapons, they can take back the territory, and the Wang clan can also develop the Heaven/Mountain range with peace of mind. As for the Meng clan's life and death, what does it have to do with the Wang clan? Wang Daoyuan shook his head and said, "What Meng clan? I'm not sure. The Wang clan only cares about their own territory and doing business. As long as the Liang clan finds other spiritual mountains and returns my ancestral property, it's fine," Liang Liang said with a smile. "When my Liang clan finds a spiritual mountain, we'll naturally return the Wang clan's ancestral property. This old man has one more thing. Jiaxing has a daughter named Liang Zian. She's about the same age as Steward Wang, and her cultivation is at the 3rd level of foundation establishment. I wonder if Steward Wang has the intention of marrying a wife? This old fellow wants to rely on a marriage alliance to pull the two clans closer, lest the Wang clan fall out with him after he passes away. If the marriage alliance doesn't work out, Liang Liang probably won't leave in peace." Wang Daoyuan shook his head and said, "My thoughts are all on cultivation. To me, the Golden Core realm isn't impossible. Elder Liang should also know that keeping one's primordial yang is more or less helpful in cultivation. Before forming the Golden Core, I won't consider marrying a wife. However, second brother and third brother are only a few years older than me. As a younger brother, I shouldn't say too much about the two elder brothers' matters. It's still up to the elders to make the decision." Wang Jian stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Since it's the younger generation's marriage, I can make the decision. Daoxing's talent is not bad, and his cultivation is at the 5th level of foundation establishment. It's just that his personality is a little reckless. It's time to find someone to discipline him," Liang Liang said with satisfaction. "Since that's the case, then I'll go back first. I still have important matters to attend to in the clan. Goodbye." After settling the Liang clan's future and the marriage alliance with the Wang clan, Liang Liang was finally at ease. Wang Shui politely sent Liang Liang to the south of the Jade Dragon Spring. Liang Liang brought Liang Jiaxing and flew south on his sword. Wang Jian pointed at Wang Daoyuan and said with a smile, "Daoyuan, you've been either in seclusion or traveling for so many years. You haven't really cared about the clan's matters. I originally thought that your methods would be a little rusty, but I didn't expect you to be even more experienced and ruthless. If it were up to me, I'd at most let the Liang clan return the properties along Qingxi and Qingli River. I didn't expect that with such a hint Liang, this old man would actually agree to return all the territories, and even be grateful. It's just that I've been friends with the previous clan leader of the Ming clan for so many years. Now that I've tricked the Ming clan, I feel a little bad. Chapter 341. Wang Daoyuan didn't mind at all. Meng Changfeng likes to play petty tricks too much, but he can't see the situation clearly. The Wang, Yang, and Meng families have been friends for hundreds of years, but he doesn't value our relationship. The Yang family doesn't like him, and their relationship with our Wang family isn't very good. He's wholeheartedly colluding with those in Heian County, hoping to borrow their influence to raise his own status. To put it bluntly, he's bringing in external powers to suppress the Wang and Yang families. He's always thinking of currying favor instead of increasing his own family's strength. This kind of person who can't see the situation clearly is an unstable factor. Who knows when he might cause trouble for our two families? It's not good to keep him. Using the Meng family's territory in exchange for our Wang family's ancestral property, without shedding a drop of blood, I think it's pretty good. At this time, Wang Shui returned from outside and asked, I think it's not bad either. The Meng family will cause trouble for our Wang family sooner or later. Daoyuan, how do you think Liang will scheme against the Meng family? Wang Daoyuan laughed lightly. Who knows? Liang must have run to the Yang family now. After the negotiations, it'll be time to hold the wedding. As for dealing with the Meng family, it'll take some time. Who knows what he'll do? He can't just charge into Ash Cloud Peak and kill Meng Changfeng, can he? Wang Shui shook his head. I think it's quite possible. Liang doesn't have many days left, and he still has to negotiate a marriage with the Yang family. He doesn't have time to scheme, so he can only cut the Gordian knot. The simplest and most effective method is to kill Meng Changfeng. Then Liang will die in the Meng family's territory and frame the Meng family. After that, he'll negotiate with the Yang family and pin the blame on the Meng family. The Liang family's Zifu will be killed by the Meng family, and the Liang family will ask for compensation with the Meng family's assets. Our Wang and Yang families won't care about this matter, so the Liang family will ask the other factions to help. Liang will die, but the other factions will still have some face. With the Wang and Yang families here, no other family will dare have any ideas about this territory. If the Liang family really does this, it's very likely they'll swallow the Meng family's territory. Wang Daoyuan sucked in a breath of cold air. I'm used to playing dirty, so I didn't think about this. Now that you mention it, if Liang really wants to use force, the chances of success are very high. On the other side, Liang and Liang Jiaxing returned to the Blue Cloud Peak and informed the elders of the Liang family about the Wang family's attitude. Liang Jiaxing sighed and said, It's said that a dog that bites doesn't bark. I originally thought that Wang Daoyuan was just a junior with a bit of cleverness. She didn't expect him to bark so happily and bite so fiercely. His mind is especially vicious. He didn't even bat an eyelid when sacrificing a family friend of hundreds of years. Liang nodded and said, You underestimated Wang Daoyuan. Our Liang family also underestimated the Wang and Yang two families. I don't have many days left, and you're already over 200 years old. The family will be handed over to Zi Peng in the future. The Yang family had Yang Yulin, so they could still be stable for a few hundred years. The Wang family was very likely to become a Jindan family in the future. Even Zi Peng, who has the best talent in our family, doesn't have a high chance of establishing a Violet Palace. Before I die, I will take down Ash Cloud Peak. In the future, all of you should try to live with your tails between your legs. If you encounter any problems, follow the Wang clan. Don't even think about expanding. Properly guard the foundation that I sacrificed my life for. When a Violet Palace realm cultivator appears among the younger generation, we can expand to the west. Our matter with the Wang clan has already been settled. Jiaxing, and I will go to the Yang clan. After he finished speaking, he flew towards the south with Liang Jiaxing. On the Wang clan's side, Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shui arrived at Wang Daoxing's cave residence. After all, if they wanted to marry a wife for him, he had to agree first. The two most eloquent people in the Wang clan personally came to persuade him. How could they not convince a simple-minded person? The two of them told Wang Daoxing about the marriage between the two clans, and told him about the benefits of marrying a wife. The 2-century-old bachelors clearly didn't have enough persuasive power when they talked about the benefits of marrying a wife. But with their shrewdness, they managed to coax Wang Daoxing into a daze. In the end, Wang Daoyuan even promised to pass down the inheritance of the Origin Sword sect to him. Only then did he reluctantly agree to marry Liang Zian. A few days later, the Liang family sent someone to discuss the date of Liang Zian's marriage with the Wang clan. The date was set to be half a month later. It seemed that Liang didn't have much time left. The Liang family was anxious. The Wang clan seized the time to decorate. Half a month later, it was the day of the wedding. Wang Daoxing rode on the Jade Spring flying boat. The flying boat also carried a large red bridal sedan and more than 20 Ming generation members to the Qinyan Peak. In order to prevent any trouble, Wang Daoyuan was also in the wedding procession. The Jade Spring flying boat could fly 1,500 to 600 miles in 2 hours. It only took a little more than 2 hours to reach the Qinyan Peak. Wang Daoyuan had never been to the Qinyan Peak before. When he passed by on his sword, he only took a look from afar. Only when he got closer did he feel the magnificence of the Qinyan Peak. The Qinyan Peak's spirit vein was a third-level lower-grade spirit vein of water and wood. It couldn't be compared to the Jade Spring Peak. But in terms of the terrain, the Jade Spring Peak couldn't be compared to the Qinyan Peak. The Jade Spring Peak's routes were only 20 to 30 miles long from east to west, 10 miles wide from north to south, and 500 feet at its highest point. The Qinyan Peak's routes were more than 100 miles long from north to south, 50 to 60 miles wide from east to west, and more than 1,000 feet tall. Because of the abundance of what attribute spirit qi, the Qinyan Peak had a lot of spirit fields, about 2 to 300 mu. The Jade Spring Peak had less than 100 mu. In the Liang clan's territory, there were also 2 second-level spirit veins, and more than 10 first-level spirit veins. These were the foundations left behind by their ancestors. They had been lost for almost 400 years, and they would soon be reclaimed. The wedding procession arrived at the mountain. Wang Daoyuan was in the wedding procession, and Liang personally came out to receive him. Wang Daoyuan accompanied Liang and Liang Jiaxing to chat for a while. On the other side, Liang Ziping carried Liang Zian onto the bridal sedan. After the wedding procession returned. A few people from the Liang clan also went to the Jade Spring Peak to send the bride off. When the wedding procession returned to the Jade Spring Peak, the Wang clan held a big banquet. All the clans sent foundation establishment cultivators to congratulate them. Even the clans from Heian County and Qingli County came. The Yang clan sent Yang Ziyuan and Yang Yulin together. Only the Ming clan sent a single qi refinement cultivator. After the wedding and the banquet were over, everyone dispersed. Yang Ziyuan and Yang Yulin stayed behind, and Wang Daoyuan invited them into the auditorium. Yang Ziyuan asked Wang Shui, "Aren't we being a bit too ruthless in dealing with the Ming clan? After all, our 3 clans have been friends for hundreds of years, and many of our clans have been united through marriage. I really can't bear to ignore the Ming clan now." Wang Daoyuan ordered people to bring the gifts from the Ming clan. When they opened it, they saw a low-grade second-level longsword magic tool and 2 bottles of medicinal pills. Everyone scanned it with their divine sense and knew how many pills were inside. Wang Daoyuan then ordered people to take out the list of gifts that the Wang clan had given to other clans over the years. He flipped to a page and showed it to Yang Ziyuan and Yang Yulin. Wang Daoyuan snorted coldly. The Yang clan is a Zifu clan. This time, senior and cousin Yulin came together. Meng Changfeng only sent a single qi refinement cultivator, and the gift he gave us was the gift that the Wang clan gave him when he succeeded as the Meng clan's patriarch. What's the meaning of this? The Meng clan only has a single 5th-level foundation establishment cultivator, and he dares to throw his face at our Wang clan? Does our Wang clan need the Meng clan's approval to form a marriage alliance with anyone? Meng Chongfeng's cultivation talent is above average, and it's not impossible for him to establish a zifu. Now, he dares to drag the cultivators of Heian County into the matters of the northern part of Qingli County, and doesn't take our two clans seriously. In the future, if he can establish a zifu, won't he ride on our necks and shit? Now does the Yang clan still want to protect the Meng clan? Yang Ziyuan looked at the list, and the Wang clan's gifts were exactly the same as the Meng clan's. He let out a long sigh. This Meng Chongfeng is shrewd in small matters, but how can he be so muddle-headed when it comes to big matters? Forget it, our Yang clan has no objections. Let them be. It's a waste not to take the territory south of Qingxi County. Our two clans will play dumb, and how far the Liang clan can go will depend on their own abilities. Chapter 342. Wang Shui nodded and said with a smile, "It's best that Yang clan thinks this way. Let's not meddle in this matter. Since Meng Chongfeng has this ambition, let's let him properly display his abilities. If he doesn't take our clans seriously, there's no need for our clans to give up the territory we took for free for him." Yang Ziyuan and Yang Yulin chatted for a while more before taking their leave. Wang Daoyuan sent the two to the shore of Jade Dragon Spring. After the two flew away on their swords, he also returned to his own abode. Liang might make a move against Meng clan in the near future. It was still unknown how big of a disturbance this matter would cause. There might be many things that he needed to take care of, so he didn't leave Jade Spring Peak. After cultivating in seclusion in his abode for a month, 12th uncle personally came to his abode. He asked doubtfully, "What did Liang clan make a move?" Wang Shui said with a smile, "Just now, when Chasing Wave was flying from Jade Spring Peak to Clear Glass City, the steward of the ship saw Liang go to Ash Cloud Peak alone. I told him in advance to pay attention to Liang clan's movements. After he saw Liang, he immediately sent me a message. At this time, Liang should have just arrived at Ash Cloud Peak." When Wang Daoyuan heard this, he also became interested. So Liang clan is going to make a move. It seems that after today, Meng clan will disappear. It won't take long for our Wang clan to take back our ancestral property. 4 hours later, news came from Wang clan's Dark Hall. 5 foundation building cultivators of Liang clan besieged Ash Cloud Peak. Liang clan claimed that Meng clan killed Liang clan's ancestor. Meng clan was caught unprepared and hastily activated the mountain barrier, but they couldn't hold on for long. Liang clan's 5 foundation building cultivators only used a quarter of an hour to break the mountain barrier formation. Meng clan's disciples suffered heavy casualties. Wang Daoyuan glanced at 12th uncle. Liang is worthy of being a treasure-seizing cultivator. This Liang clan's methods are really wild. You guessed right. Liang really did come to kill Meng Chongfeng, and then died in Meng clan. What's done is done. Meng clan is already done for. If our two families don't interfere, no one in the north of Qingli County can control the Liang family. The Meng family only had 2 or 3 ordinary disciples in the underworld sect. They didn't have any backing. The Liang family could then fool the General Affairs Hall of the Netherworld sect, so that they could not find any fault with it. Or they could use money to bribe the steward of the General Affairs Hall, who came to investigate. Liang should still have some friends in the foreign faction. As long as they spent some money, they could invite a few elders who were on good terms with Liang to help them out. The Netherworld sect would not go to war for a small Meng family. In this way, the Meng family's territory and properties were in their hands. 50 years ago I saved Meng Qingshan. Before he died, he repeatedly told Meng Chongfeng to set his sights in the long run, to consider the big picture, and to follow our two clans. It seems like Meng Qingshan knew what kind of person Meng Chongfeng was. If Meng Chongfeng had listened to even half of his dying words, the Meng family wouldn't be where it is today. Wang Shui sighed. A leopard can't change its spots. Meng Chongfeng was a bit like the emperor of the Song Kingdom. They were both skillful, but they lacked the ability to see the big picture. They could only see the benefits, but not the risks. He forgot his own life for the sake of small profits, and he happened to be born into a declining family like the Meng family. Wang Daoyuan shook his head. It's not that I look down on Meng Chongfeng. but he really doesn't deserve to be compared to Song Yan. No matter what, Song Yan was a ruthless person who could deal with the 6 golden core factions of the Song Kingdom and beat back the 3 kingdoms of Qi, Chu and Wu. Attacking the Zhao Kingdom was also taking the risk of being crippled to fight for the entire Zhao Kingdom. If they succeeded, the Song nation's territory would expand by several times. Even if he failed, there would be no danger of the kingdom falling. As for Meng Changfeng, he couldn't even stir up the small mud pit in the northern part of Qingli County. For some small profits, he offended the Wang and Yang families, causing the destruction of his family. Even if he were in Song Yan's position, he would still be able to drag the Song family down with him. 2 days later, Yang Yong sent a letter to the Wang family, asking them to send people over to deal with the Liang and Meng families. Wang Daoyuan did not say anything else, and rushed to Qingli City. When he arrived at the underworld sect's encampment, a foundation establishment cultivator of the Liang family immediately welcomed him and brought him to the meeting hall. At this moment, there were 3 people in the meeting hall, all of them familiar faces. Sitting on the main seat was the previous guardian of Qingli City, Zhou Qi. On the left was Yang Yong, and on the right was Liang Jiaxing. Wang Daoyuan bowed. "Greetings, Elder Zhou, greetings, Elder Yang." Zhou Qi smiled. "Steward Wang, long time no see. When I left Qingli City, you had only just reached foundation establishment. In a short 50 years, you are already at the 9th level of foundation establishment. With this cultivation speed, even the Golden Core direct disciples of the sect can at most be on par with you. I have also left for many years, and do not know much about the matters here. Your Wang, Yang, and Liang families are the 3 strongest families in the northern part of Qingli County. How to deal with the Meng family's matter depends on your opinions." With that, he pointed to the seat on the right, indicating for Wang Daoyuan to sit down. Wang Daoyuan did not refuse. After sitting down, he cupped his hands and said, "Ever since second brother got married, I have been cultivating in seclusion. I want to reach the peak of foundation establishment as soon as possible, so that I can go out and find an opportunity to open the Violet Palace. In the past few decades, I have either been traveling or in seclusion. I do not know much about the Meng family, so I do not know what is going on." Zhou Qi glanced at Liang Jiaxing, indicating for him to speak. Liang Jiaxing immediately understood and said while crying, "Steward Wang, my family's ancestor paid a visit to Ashcloud Peak 2 days ago. The 2 families have had many conflicts in the past few hundred years. During this period of time, the old ancestor had also talked things out with the Wang family and the Yang family. But not long after the ancestor went to the Meng family, the clansman guarding the soul lamp reported that the ancestor's soul lamp had been extinguished. I took a few foundation establishment clansmen to seek justice, but I did not expect that the Meng family would activate the mountain guarding formation without any explanation. In order to retrieve the ancestor's remains, we broke the formation. After entering Ashcloud Peak, we found the ancestor dead in the Meng family's auditorium. Meng Changfeng also died in the auditorium, beaten to death by my family's ancestor. When my family's ancestor went to settle the feud between the 2 families, Meng Changfeng must have had evil intentions and poisoned my family's ancestor. After my family's ancestor discovered that he had been poisoned, he beat Meng Changfeng to death." After Liang Jiaxing finished speaking, Zhou Qi asked, "Daoyuan, what do you think of the truth of this matter? Is it possible that Meng Changfeng poisoned Elder Liang?" Wang Daoyuan pondered for a long time before answering, "I have not had many dealings with Meng Changfeng, so I do not know much about this person. The Meng family and the Liang family do have many conflicts. However, ever since the failure of the crusade against the Red-Beard bandits, I have not heard of any conflicts between the 2 families." Wang Daoyuan was taking sides by saying that the Meng family and the Liang family had many conflicts. This was hinting to Zhou Qi that Meng Changfeng had a motive to kill Liang. The Liang family had also visited the Yang family before, so they had probably reached some kind of tacit understanding. Before he came, Yang Yong might have already told Zhou Qi about Meng Changfeng's style of doing things. In addition, Wang Daoyuan said that the 2 families had conflicts, so Zhou Qi would first form a bad impression of Meng Changfeng. Zhou Qi had also stayed in Clear Glass City for many years, so he naturally knew that the Wang family, Yang family and Ming family were allies and had conflicts with the Liang family. He nodded and said, "No matter what is said here, it is only a one-sided story. Let's go to Ashcloud Peak to see the bodies of Elder Liang and Meng Changfeng." The Liang family had occupied Ashcloud Peak and had already arranged everything that needed to be arranged. Liang Jiaxing definitely had no objections. The Wang and Yang families were just here to watch the show. If the Liang family could act this show well, they could swallow the Ming family's territory. If this show was not played well, the Liang family would have to obediently spit out their territory after being dealt with. The three of them had no objections. Yang Yong took out a flying boat, and the four of them boarded it and flew to Ashcloud Peak. Chapter 343. The four of them arrived at Ashcloud Peak. The last time Wang Daoyuan came to Ashcloud Peak was during Meng Qingshan's funeral. It had been decades, but the scenery on the mountain hadn't changed much. However, there was no one from the Meng family, and only the Liang family could be seen. The ground had been cleaned up, and it looked like nothing had happened. However, the broken buildings, as well as the traces left by spells and flying swords, still told people about the bloody storm that had just ended. The four of them walked into the auditorium, which hadn't been cleaned, and was still the same as before. Liang was lying near the door with a ferocious expression. Meng Changfeng was nailed to the west mountain wall of the auditorium by a flying sword, and a lot of blood flowed out of his mouth and nose. This flying sword was Liang's. The main table in the auditorium was kicked to the ground, and a teacup was broken. Zhou Qi walked to Liang's body, swept it with his spiritual sense and said, "Elder Liang's heart has been corroded. He should have been poisoned by heart-eroding powder. This poison is colorless and tasteless. Once poisoned, if there is no detoxification method, he will die in half a cup of tea's time. No one below the golden core stage can withstand it. Elder Liang's limit is not far. After being poisoned, the poison will only spread faster." He checked the broken teacup with his spiritual sense, and said, "There is indeed heart-eroding powder in the teacup. Elder Liang may have discovered the poison after drinking the tea. After that, he fought with Meng Changfeng and killed him with a sword. He wanted to go out, but he died before reaching the door. As for whether this is the case, I can't confirm it. By the way, is there anyone else who knows?" Liang Jiaxing shook his head and said, "No. When we broke through Ashcloud Peak, some of the Ming family cultivators fled, and some continued to resist. Those who resisted were killed, and there are no more Ming family members on Ashcloud Peak." Zhou Qi nodded and said, "Then that's it for now. I will return to the sect and report this matter to the General Affairs Hall Master. As for how the Liang and Ming families will be decided, it will be up to the Hall Master." Liang Jiaxing wiped his tears and asked, "May I ask Elder Zhou, can my ancestor's body be collected? He has passed away for more than 2 days. In order to wait for the sect to come and verify it, we haven't dared to collect the body. Junior really cannot bear to see the corpse of my ancestor exposed here, so I ask for Elder Zhou's mercy." Zhou Qi nodded and said, "What should be seen has been seen. There is no need to continue to let the two of them lie here. Put away Elder Liang's corpse. After all, he is an elder of my underworld sect. You can't lose face. We don't even know where the Meng family members are. You should clean up Meng Changfeng's body as well. I still have to return to the sect to report this matter, so I won't stay any longer." Everyone cupped their hands and said, "Farewell, Elder Zhou." After Zhou Qi left, Wang Daoyuan and Yang Ziyuan continued to stay here. There was no reason for them to stay, so they went back home. There was nothing to look forward to after that. Zhou Qi didn't find any flaws on the spot, and both parties were dead. The people of the Ming clan were either dead or had fled. There was no way to investigate. If he wanted to find out what happened at that time, he would have to use the time reversal technique, or summon the souls of the two to ask. However, the time reversal technique was a legendary technique. It was impossible for a golden core cultivator to use it. After people of the cultivation world died, if they couldn't use the soul retrieval technique to collect their souls in a short period of time. Then their souls would quickly disappear. The two of them had already been dead for 2 days. Their souls had already run off to God knows where. Even if he wanted to collect their souls, there was no way to find them. No one spoke up for the Ming clan. The Liang clan asked an elder from another sect to help. This matter was already a sure win for the Liang clan. Sure enough, half a month later, the underworld sect sent someone to announce the result. The Ming clan murdered an elder of the underworld sect. Their crime was to be exterminated, but the mastermind was already dead. The Ming clan would no longer pursue the crimes of the other members of the Ming clan. The people of the Ming clan fled everywhere. No one dared to come out to claim the property. All the property of the Ming clan was given to the Liang clan as compensation. When the news came, the old clans of the northern part of Qingli County expressed their dissatisfaction. They wanted the Wang and Yang clans to stand up and seek justice for the Ming clan. There were even some clans of Heian County who were involved. These clans were roped in by the Ming clan. They wanted to meddle in the affairs of the northern part of Qingli County. The Wang and Yang clans' attitudes were very clear. They supported the underworld sect's decision. Whoever disagreed could go to the underworld sect to cause trouble. However, Wang Shui sent someone to leak the news that the Ming clan returned the gifts at Wang Daoxing's wedding. This time, no one came to cause trouble with the Wang clan. After all, the Ming clan was in the wrong first. They returned the gifts that were given out decades ago. They really didn't put the Wang clan in their eyes. They might as well not have come. If they hadn't come, they would have had a reason to refuse. If they had done this, there was no room for negotiation. The Ming clan didn't know how to appreciate favors. The Wang clan was already very benevolent for not personally suppressing the Ming clan. This time, the other clans didn't cause any more trouble. After all, they were only concerned about their own kind. They didn't really want to take revenge for the Ming clan. The Ming clan was destroyed by the Liang clan. The Wang and Yang clans didn't care. They were worried that they would end up like the Ming clan in the future. Now that they knew that Meng Changfeng was courting death, the Wang clan had ample reason to not take action. They had nothing to say. The Ming clan was already history. No one would really provoke two Zifu clans for a destroyed clan. This disturbance quickly came to an end. The northern part of Qingli County returned to tranquility. The Liang clan only lost Liang, who was nearing the end of his lifespan. In addition to the resources that they secretly gave to the underworld sect's elders, they obtained the entire Ming clan's territory. Although the Ming clan wasn't strong, their territory wasn't small. Apart from the fact that the Ash Cloud Peak only had a high-grade level 2 spirit vein, which was far inferior to the Jade Spring Peak, the properties in their territory were much stronger than the Wang clan before Wang Daoyuan left the mountain. With these conditions, it was a bit difficult to establish the foundation of a Zifu clan. However, it was still easy to support a strong foundation establishment clan. The voices of opposition disappeared. The Liang clan took over all of the Ming clan's properties and gradually moved their clansmen into the Ming clan's territory. The Liang clan was at the beginning of the clan's development. Previously, they didn't have many ordinary clansmen. They also occupied a large territory, with only 30 to 40,000 ordinary clansmen. Most of the clansmen could live near spirit veins. With sufficient spirit qi, the probability of the ordinary clansmen giving birth to cultivators was higher. The Liang clan had quite a few cultivators. Even after being exhausted by the Red-Beard bandits, they still had about 100 clansmen after a few decades of recuperation. The Wang clan's cultivators slowly surpassed the Liang clans after Wang Daoyuan proposed to provide spirit grains for pregnant cultivators and their close relatives free of charge. If not for their fear of the Wang and Yang clans, the Liang clan wouldn't have given up their own territory after taking over the Ming clan's territory. However, the Liang clan didn't dare to go back on their promise to the Wang and Yang clans. While moving their clansmen into the Ming clan's territory, they also gradually handed over their properties to the Wang and Yang clans. After more than a year, the Wang clan finally took over all of the territory east of Qingli River and north of Qingxi River. At this point, the Wang, Yang, and Liang clans were separated by Qingli River and Qingxi River. Of course, There were some territories near Jade Spring Peak on the west bank of Qingli River that belonged to the Wang clan. Ever since the Wang clan established itself, these territories belonged to the Wang clan. After all, they were in the vicinity of Jade Spring Peak. The other clans didn't dare to fight over these territories. Moreover, the value of these territories was very low. There were only a few scattered low-grade mines, and their development value was extremely low. The Wang clan only used these territories as a buffer zone. They didn't develop them much, and there weren't many ordinary clansmen living there. The Wang and Liang clans' main territories were still separated by Qingli River. The three clans all had the advantage of water transportation. For the time being, there weren't any conflicts. The northern part of Qingli River should be peaceful for many days. Chapter 344. In the process of the two families handing over territory, many things happened. Some spirit veins were taken away by the Liang family first, and the Wang family did not take over in time. So there were rogue cultivators who were not afraid of death who dared to occupy the place. Some Foundation establishment rogue cultivators even chased away the Liang family and occupied the spirit veins when they found out that the Liang family was giving up their territory. The Liang family only wanted to leave as soon as possible and did not dare to take everything away, so they did not send cultivators to clean them up. But the Wang family could not sit back and do nothing. These were their own things. For more than a year, Wang Daoyuan rode Yun-Yi every day to patrol the territory he was about to take over. If he encountered rogue cultivators who took advantage of him, he would kill them with a sword. Although Yun-Yi was so fat that his legs could not be seen, it was a flying spirit beast after all, and its speed far exceeded that of a Foundation establishment cultivator's flying sword. As long as a rogue cultivator dared to make a move, he would definitely not be able to escape Wang Daoyuan's pursuit. After killing the rogue cultivators who took advantage of the situation, he would set up a stake along the banks of the clear stream, or Qingli River, and put the heads on it. In the past year, more than 100 heads had been placed on the banks of Qingli River and Qingli River. The effect was also very obvious, and no rogue cultivators dared to seize the property. However, Wang Daoyuan's reputation among the rogue cultivators also spread. Most rogue cultivators did not dare to call him by his name, but called him that senior. This commonly used name became Wang Daoyuan's exclusive name among the rogue cultivators in the northern part of Qingli County. In the process of the Wang family taking over the territory, although there were rogue cultivators causing trouble, there were no losses. After all, no rogue cultivator dared to attack the territory that the Wang family had already occupied. Wang Daoyuan also obtained more than 100,000 spirit stones by killing rogue cultivators, and was one step closer to the 700,000 spirit stones needed to exchange for the Yin-Yang purple jade. Although the territory seized by the Liang family wasn't that big, there were a lot of industries. After taking back these territories, the number of industries of the Wang family more than doubled. However, the resources produced by these industries did not have to worry about not being able to sell. After all, these resources were not completely new like Yusong Mountain, and the total amount of resources in the northern part of Qingli County did not increase. It was just that the ones selling resources changed from the Liang family to the Wang family. These properties were secondary. The most important thing was the spirit vein. In the newly reclaimed territory, there was the Blue Cloud Peaks Rank 3 inferior spirit vein, 2 Rank 2 spirit veins, and more than 10 Rank 1 spirit veins. These spirit veins could accommodate 40 to 50,000 mortals. Mortals who lived near spirit veins were nourished by spirit qi, and had a much higher chance of giving birth to descendants of cultivators. As long as they moved tens of thousands of people to the newly reclaimed territory. In the future, the number of cultivators in the Wang clan would increase rapidly. The Wang clan now had a total of 180,000 mortals. Among them, the total population at Linji Mountain and Jade Pine Mountain already exceeded 10,000. It had been more than 70 years since Wang Daoyuan left the mountain, but the population had yet to double. The growth rate was indeed slow. The slow growth of the population was mainly due to diseases. In the world of immortal cultivators, There were also medical inheritances, which could be considered as a branch of alchemy. However, these medical skills were mainly targeted at cultivators. Cultivators would only be poisoned and injured, but they would never fall sick. Therefore, there was no content in the medical inheritance that could treat mortal illnesses. Wang Daoyuan did not study medicine in his previous life, so it was not worth it to specialize in mortal medicine. In the central part of Beiyuan Xiuxian, in the Zhou country, there were many small countries formed by mortals. There would definitely be medical inheritances that targeted mortals, so he could go look for them in the future. To a mortal cultivator clan, the number of mortals was the cornerstone of the clan's prosperity. Although there were many places in the Wang clan's territory that were not suitable for mortals to live in, just the fertile plains along the rivers and lakes were enough to support a few million mortals. Of course, in a place like the northern part of Qingli County, which was at the edge of human territory, a clan could not possibly have a few million mortals. Every few hundred years, there would be a beast tide. Cultivators could still abandon their clan and escape, but mortals simply did not have the ability to escape. Every time there was a beast tide, the various immortal cultivator clans would suffer heavy losses. Mortals would not even survive. The number of mortals that could survive a beast tide mainly depended on how many spirit mountains the clan had. Places with spirit veins could set up formations, using the formations to block first and second level demonic beasts and protect mortals. High-level demonic beasts would not be interested in mortals. If they wanted to attack, they would attack spirit veins that were third level and above. After the Liang clan left, the dozen or so spirit veins left behind had to be protected by formations. Clansmen were also sent to guard them, so as to prevent people from thinking about them. In addition, the reclaimed properties also needed manpower to take care of them. The spirit fields were easy to manage. The entire Liang clan's territory only had a few hundred mu of spirit fields. The spirit plant hall could easily send a few people to coordinate with some mortals to take care of them. The forest and mines were more troublesome. Large amounts of manpower were needed to restore production. It would take at least 2 to 3 years for the clan to migrate enough mortals over. It was not reliable to recruit a large number of loose cultivators. Loose cultivators were mostly cunning people. Using a few loose cultivators could still be controlled. But if they hired more loose cultivators, they would become bolder. They might even dare to steal ores and bully the clan disciples who managed the mines. It was also impossible for the clan to send foundation establishment cultivators to watch over every property. Therefore, within 3 years, the newly reclaimed properties would not be able to restore the production of resources to the previous level. However, he did not need to care about these things. The mines and forest were managed by the Mine Mountain Hall and the Spiritwood Hall. The migration of mortals was also managed by the General Affairs Hall. What he needed to do was to set up the formations and refine the flying boat. He could leave the mountain protection formations of the rank 1 and rank 2 spirit veins to his little uncle Wang Shouja. After his own guidance and 20 years of exploration, he was now an inferior rank 2 formation master. He was completely capable of setting up the mountain protection formations of the rank 1 and rank 2 spirit veins. The clan had now created the formation division, and the chief steward was Wang Shouja. The formation division was mainly responsible for maintaining the mountain protection formations of the various properties of the clan, as well as setting up simple mountain protection formations. Currently, the number of formation masters was still relatively small. Other than Wang Shouja, there were a few little fellows from the Ming generation. These little fellows had only just entered the sect, and were learning the way of formations from Wang Shouja. When Wang Shouja was setting up the formations, they would assist him. Only he could set up the mountain protection formation of the rank 3 spirit vein of Qingyun Peak. The task of refining the flying boat also needed to be completed as soon as possible. The construction of the Bailing market in the central part of Qingli County had already been completed. The Jade Spring flying boat, that was previously idle, was also put to use. The Jade Spring flying boat usually traveled between the Qingli market and the Bailing market to transport goods and cultivators. The Bailing market had just been established and was lacking in various resources. Now that there was a flying boat connecting the two places, many cultivators in the central part of Qingli County took the flying boat to the Qingli market to purchase various resources. Some itinerant cultivators also took the flying boat from the Qingli market to the Beiling market to sell some resources. The Wang clan's business of transporting goods and passengers was extremely prosperous. With only one Jade Spring flying boat, they could not manage all of them. It would be best if they could have a bigger flying boat. Only with 2 flying boats could they meet the needs of transporting goods and passengers between the 2 markets. The Wang clan had taken over a large area of land and needed a flying boat to help them migrate and transport the resources produced by the various properties. They also needed to keep one as a backup, which meant that they needed to build 3 flying boats. It was not like when he was refining the flying boat in the underworld sect, where he had a large number of weapon forgers and formation masters to assist him. The Wang clan's weapon forgery department had also been upgraded to the weapon forgery hall, with Zhao Liang as the weapon forgery elder. The weapon forgery hall had also nurtured more than 10 rank 1 upper grade weapon forgers, but they had not nurtured any rank 2 weapon forgers. Therefore, the construction of the 3 flying boats depended entirely on the efforts of Wang Daoyuan and Zhao Liang. The others could only help cut the wooden planks and carve the formation patterns and weapon patterns. None of them could help. Chapter 345. According to the rules of the cultivation world, a spirit vein with an array formation had an owner. Therefore, after occupying a spirit vein, one had to immediately set up an array formation. Without a huge grudge, itinerant cultivators would not attack a spirit mountain with an owner. If there was no array formation, it meant that the spirit vein had no owner, and anyone could occupy it. Although Wang Daoyuan had killed many itinerant cultivators previously, no one dared to court death easily. However, Blue Cloud Peak's inferior grade 3 spirit vein was too tempting. Even though they already knew that this place belonged to the Wang clan, and that Wang Daoyuan, the god of death, was in charge, there were still many foundational cultivators who were eyeing this place. Wang Daoyuan didn't even dare to enter a meditative state. It was urgent to set up a defensive array formation. Blue Cloud Peak's spirit vein had both water and wood attributes, so it was best to set up an array formation with both attributes. He did not know what array formation the Liang family had set up previously. When they retreated, they took everything that could be taken away. There were no materials left for setting up the array formation, and all the spirit plants in the spirit fields were transplanted. Only the spirit trees that had grown for hundreds of years on the mountain did not dare to touch them. After all, most of those spirit trees were planted by the Wang family back then. If the Liang family dared to touch those spirit trees, the Wang family would definitely continue to suppress them, and Liang would have died in vain. The Liang family was still clear about what could and could not be touched. It did not matter if he did not know about the previous array formation. The 5 elements perfected being was proficient in array formations, and there were many powerful array formations in his inheritance. Wang Daoyuan found a waterwood dual attribute array formation called the Greenwood Illusory Cloud Array. This array formation was to create an environment and wait for an opportunity to sneak in. Together with offensive plants like the vampiric vine, it was extremely powerful. This Greenwood Illusory Cloud Array was also an inferior grade 3 array formation, and was just right for Blue Cloud Peak's spirit vein. Wang Daoyuan had to set up the array formation as soon as possible, and then refine the flying boat. Time was tight, so he did not carefully set up the array core. He first set up the framework of the array formation, and then used some Dharma treasures to suppress some of the array core's functions. As long as the array formation could be used, itinerant cultivators would not dare to spy on Blue Cloud Peak. The Greenwood Illusory Cloud formation was not a purely offensive formation. It also had a defensive barrier. It could be used together with defensive Dharma artifacts to increase the strength of the defensive barrier and defend against enemies outside the mountain gate. He also had a mystic tortoise shield in his clan, which was given to him by Adept Thunderflame when he established his Violet Palace. This thing was made from the shell of the dark water black turtle, a 3rd rank lower grade spirit beast, and it had not been forged. He only used the smelting method to fuse some material essence into it to increase its strength. It wasn't hard for him to take the attacks of an early Zifu disciple head-on, and he would be able to hold on for a period of time against an ordinary middle Zifu disciple. Attacking Dharma artifacts were more awkward, because the blue cloud peak had a water and would attribute spirit vein. These two attributes were not good at attacking. Even if he used flying swords with two different attributes, the offensive power of the array was only SOSO. The wood element was very suitable for playing with poison, but the clear sky peak was a place that the Wang clan wanted to focus on. In the future, there would be many cultivators stationed there, so it was definitely not suitable to release poison here. Moreover, the Wang clan wasn't able to find a poison that could deal with Zifu disciples. The vampiric vine alone was not enough to deal with the enemy in the air. Thus, he still needed a few flying swords. He first set up the framework of the array. In order to cover the entire clear sky peak, the distance between each array core was very far. The difficulty of connecting the array cores was not much lower than when he set up the 5 elements dragon lock formation. He used half a year to connect all the array cores to the spirit vein and the core array core. Afterwards, he placed the mystic tortoise shield and the 6 flying swords that he took from the jade spring peak at each array core. After he was done, Wang Daoyuan sat cross-legged beside the core array core and poured spiritual power into it. A layer of alternating blue and blue defensive light instantly enveloped the entire clear sky peak. With the help of the array, he used a 3rd rank lower grade wood flying sword to attack a 3-meter tall rock halfway up the mountain. Although the attack power of the wood element wasn't strong, it was still a 3rd rank lower grade wood flying sword. Its power was still considerable, and the rock was directly cut in half. Seeing this, the cultivators that were spying on the clear sky peak all dispersed. With the protection of the array core, the clear sky peak's safety was guaranteed. Wang Daoyuan asked Zhao Liang to bring the disciples of the family, who knew how to refine weapons over. He planned to refine the flying boat here. There was a kind of 3rd rank lower grade wood on the clear sky peak, called the clear sky parasol tree. The clear sky parasol tree was entirely green, and green clouds would condense on the tree crown. There were many clear sky parasol trees on the mountain, and the entire mountain peak was enveloped by the clouds produced by the clear sky parasol tree. That was how the name Clear Sky Peak came about. There were more than 10 3rd-rank clear sky parasol trees on the entire mountain peak, and there were at least 1,000 2nd-rank clear sky parasol trees all over the mountain. The clear sky parasol tree's strength could only be considered above average among the same grade of spirit wood, and it was far inferior to the jade bone pine. However, it was not a big problem to use it to refine a magic longsword. The clear sky parasol tree had 2 great advantages. First, its trunk was straight and tall, and it was quite common to see more than 500 meters tall. Second, its wood was especially suitable for spiritual power to pass through. With these 2 advantages, it was very suitable to refine the flying boat's keel. In fact, it was also quite good to refine the flying boat's core. However, considering the difficulty of repair, it was more suitable to refine the flying boat's core with metal materials. The material to refine the flying boat's core was naturally still star steel. There was a whole mine in Fallen Dragon Ridge, and there was as much as he wanted. Wang Daoyuan was already a 3rd-rank weapon refiner, an array master at this time. So the flying boat he refined did not need to be like before. He replaced the floating array pattern and the propulsion array pattern on the flying boat's core with 3rd-rank array patterns. In this way, the flying boat's carrying capacity and speed would be much faster. Of course, the Netherworld sect had restrictions on the size and speed of the flying boat, so he could not break through. The flying boat could not be more than 100 meters long, and its speed could not exceed 2,000 miles in 2 hours. Wang Daoyuan decided to make a flying boat with a flat line. The length could not exceed 100 meters, so he would make it 100 meters. The length could not be increased, so in order to increase the transport capacity, he increased the width. In the end, it took half a year to refine a flying boat that was 100 meters long and more than 60 meters wide. This thing did not look like a flying boat anymore. but its functions were still there. In order to reduce the speed to 2,000 miles in 2 hours, he also reduced the number of spirit stone troughs that provided spirit stones with spirit chi. The 12th uncle was also very satisfied with this flying boat. It did not matter how it looked, as long as it was useful. Wang Daoyuan and Zhao Liang continued to refine the flying boat like this. After familiarizing themselves with the process, their speed also improved. In just 10 months, they had refined another 2 flying boats. In the past 2 years, Wang Shouja had also led a group of juniors to set up array formations in the various spirit veins in the new territory. The migration of the family's population was basically completed, and the various industries were also on track. The Wang family's mining and spirit wood industries had more than doubled their annual income. In addition to the new shops in the Bailing market and the flying boat's transportation income, the Wang family's annual net income was now more than 100,000 spirit stones. With so many spirit stones, they could only support more than 100 cultivators, so they could have a surplus of 50,000 to 60,000 spirit stones every year. Since the important matters had been completed, Wang Daoyuan could also modify the Clear Sky Peaks array formation while he was in seclusion. The strongest point of the Greenwood illusory cloud formation was that it could create illusions that could even confuse early-stage Zifu realm cultivators. It would be a pity to give up such a powerful ability. The current array formation only had a simple framework, and its functions were all dependent on Dharma artifacts. It still had to be modified. At the very least, it had to be restored to its ability to create illusions. Wang Daoyuan did not neglect to set up the array formation and cultivate at the same time, so he spent a little more time. It took him more than a year to set up the complete version of the array formation. Of course, the Greenwood illusory cloud formation was not good at attacking. If it only relied on the array formation's own functions, it could only rely on the spellcaster to cast Dharma spells to attack. In this way, the array formation's lethality was not enough. Thus, he could not completely give up on the Dharma artifacts. The offensive and defensive capabilities of the array formation had to be supported by the Dharma artifacts. Chapter 346. There was no need to focus on one type of formation. Multiple types of formations could be used at the same time. For example, the traditional method of setting up a formation and using a Dharma artifact to suppress a formation could be used together. In the same formation, the original functions of the formation could be retained, and the power of the Dharma artifacts could be used to make up for the deficiencies of the formation. The Greenwood illusory cloud formation was the most suitable formation method. In order to not affect the formation's ability to create illusions, there could not be too many formation eyes. The Greenwood illusory cloud formation had a total of 16 formation eyes. Without affecting the formation's function, at most 4 formation eyes could be used to place Dharma artifacts. Wang Daoyuan was already prepared for this. He only needed to use 3 formation eyes to place Dharma artifacts. Back in the Beiyuan market, he had helped the White Fox tribe refine the demon-subduing gourd. He had used 2 Xianyuan gourds as the raw materials. He had obtained more than 10 gourd seeds from the 2 gourds and planted them in the reserved spiritual field around the life spirit fire in the spirit pearl. The gourds had already formed 3 batches. The first batch was an inferior grade tier 2 gourd, the second batch was a middle grade tier 2 gourd, and the third batch was a superior grade tier 2 gourd. Wang Daoyuan did not like the first 2 batches, so he threw them into the spirit pearl's space. The third batch of superior grade tier 2 gourd was more valuable. Wang Daoyuan was currently an inferior grade tier 3 weapon refiner. Using the smelting method to extract the essence of tier 3 materials and merge them into the gourd, these superior grade tier 2 gourds could be refined into inferior grade tier 3 Dharma artifacts. Wang Daoyuan was going to refine the armor nurturing gourd to nurture water type and wood type flying swords. He had gotten 6 flying swords from the 12th uncle, and there were 3 water type and wood type flying swords each. One armor nurturing gourd could nurture more than 10 flying swords. 3 would be a piece of cake. The armor nurturing gourd was the most common gourd type Dharma artifact. He also had the refining method. The armor-nurturing gourd had to be carved with at least a spatial and armor-nurturing pattern. The spatial pattern was very easy. As long as the space inside the gourd could hold a few flying swords, it would be enough. As for the armor-nurturing pattern, it was more difficult. In order to nurture a magic item, the gourd had to be connected to the magic item. In other words, the tool-nurturing pattern had to be connected to the magic item's pattern, allowing the magic item to receive the spirit energy from the tool-nurturing gourd. Common artifact-nurturing gourds and flying swords were all forged at the same time. The artifact-nurturing gourds and flying swords artifact-nurturing gourds were a complete set. It was easier to refine them. The tool-nurturing gourd that he wanted to forge was not the original one. The tool patterns on the flying swords were different from each other, and the tool patterns on the tool-nurturing gourd had to be adjusted slightly according to the flying swords. Otherwise, the effects of the cultivation gourd would be much worse. In addition, Wang Daoyuan wanted to use the gourd to control the flying sword. To control 3 flying swords at the same time, he only needed to use his divine sense and spiritual energy to control the artifact-nurturing gourd. The consumption of divine sense was no different from controlling an ordinary Dharma artifact. This required the artifact-nurturing gourd to be inscribed with the artifact-nurturing gourd to control the flying sword. As a result, the difficulty of refining the artifact-nurturing gourd increased exponentially. The success rate of refining a Tier 3 artifact-nurturing gourd with a Tier 2 superior grade mystic essence gourd was too low. It required too many Tier 3 materials. Wang Daoyuan was also unwilling to use large amounts of Tier 3 materials. It was better to refine a Tier 2 superior grade artifact-nurturing gourd. A Tier 2 superior grade artifact-nurturing gourd for a Tier 3 inferior grade flying sword would definitely not be very effective, but it could still be used. The mystic essence gourd had no attributes. If he wanted to refine a water and wood attribute artifact-nurturing gourd, it would be best to use the smelting method to fuse them into the gourd. The Wang family had plenty of these 2 items. There were plenty of Tier 2 superior grade wood attribute artifact-nurturing gourd on Clear Sky Peak. His family had mines, so Tier 2 superior grade water attribute artifact-nurturing gourd wasn't a problem. He had also obtained a lot of materials at the Mirror Treasure Lake Exchange back then. Although there weren't any Tier 3 materials, there were plenty of Tier 2 materials. With sufficient materials and sufficient artifact-nurturing gourd, there was still a huge demand. It was imperative to refine the artifact-nurturing gourd. There were too many places to adjust the artifact-nurturing gourd's pattern. Even with his Tier 3 inferior grade artifact-nurturing gourd, he had failed his first 2 attempts. Wang Daoyuan did not care about this. Each of the dozens of gourd vines had produced a Tier 2 superior grade gourd. He only needed to succeed twice out of the dozens of gourds. On his 3rd attempt, he finally succeeded in refining a Tier 2 wood attribute artifact-nurturing gourd and kept the 3 flying swords. He tried to activate the artifact-nurturing gourd and injected spiritual energy into the flying swords through the artifact-nurturing gourd. There was no problem with the artifact-nurturing gourd. He activated the artifact-nurturing gourd, and the 3 flying swords flew out. As long as he controlled the artifact-nurturing gourd, he would be able to do it with ease. The consumption of spiritual energy was slightly lower than controlling 3 flying swords at the same time. The consumption of spiritual energy was even lower. It was equivalent to controlling a single flying sword. The effect was pretty good. When the gourd vines produced a Tier 3 inferior grade gourd, he would definitely refine an artifact-nurturing gourd for himself. He was not afraid of spiritual energy consumption, but he was afraid of overusing his spiritual energy. The recovery speed of his spiritual energy would be too slow. It was great that the artifact-nurturing gourd could conserve spiritual energy. Furthermore, this artifact-nurturing gourd was used in conjunction with the array formation and did not care about spiritual energy consumption at all. It was fine as long as it could conserve the spiritual energy consumption of the person guarding the array formation. With a successful experience, the water attribute artifact-nurturing gourd was no longer difficult and was quickly refined. Wang Daoyuan casually threw the gourd seeds that he took out during the refinement into the spirit field of Blue Cloud Peak. Blue Cloud Peak had a wood attribute spirit vein and was suitable for planting spirit plants. He originally wanted to refine a demon-subduing gourd to hold the array formation, but the probability of demon beasts appearing here was extremely low, and it was not particularly useful. Rather than refining a demon-subduing gourd, it was better to refine a man-subduing gourd. However, he did not have the refining method for a man-subduing gourd. He could place a few demon-subduing gourds at Fallen Dragon Ridge. There were many demon beasts there, and he could capture some to exchange for spirit stones. The 2 gourd Dharma artifacts were refined. With the 2 gourds and the mystic turtle shield holding the array formation, the power of the greenwood illusory cloud array had reached the limits of what he could do. There was nothing important for him to deal with in the clan, so he cultivated at Blue Cloud Peak. There was no significant difference in spiritual energy between a 9th level foundation establishment cultivator and an ordinary peak foundation establishment cultivator. Therefore, from the 9th level foundation establishment cultivator to the peak foundation establishment cultivator could not completely rely on hard work. He also needed to comprehend. The best way to gain enlightenment was through battle. He also often ran to the heaven/mountain range to provoke superior grade class 2 demon beasts and fight them to increase his comprehension. He could not waste the demon beasts he killed and brought them back to Blue Cloud Peak to roast their meat. Now that the clan had many flying boats and Yuni did not have any business, she stayed at Blue Cloud Peak and relied on roasted meat to eat. Apart from battle, cultivating alchemy, smithing and talisman arrays was also beneficial for increasing one's comprehension. Wang Daoyuan used the useless middle-grade class 2 mystic essence gourds that he had thrown in his space to refine a few spatial Dharma artifacts to hold wine. Gourds were suitable for refining spatial Dharma artifacts. It was not difficult to refine a wine gourd that was comparable to a spirit beast pouch. Half a year after refining the artifact nurturing gourd, Wang Daoyuan killed a superior grade class 2 wild boar in the heaven/mountain range and returned to Blue Cloud Peak to roast it. Wang Daoxing rushed over from Jade Spring Peak because he wanted to see the power of the array formation on behalf of the clan leader. Wang Daoyuan naturally did not believe his nonsense. If he wanted to see the power of the array formation, he should have come over as soon as the array formation was set up. What's more, what would second brother know if he was the one doing it? He could not withstand the power of a class 3 array formation, even if he tried it himself. After Wang Daoxing saw Wang Daoyuan, he tore off a pork leg from the freshly roasted wild boar and ate. After he ate for a while, Wang Daoyuan asked, "Tell me, what are you doing here? Don't talk to me about the array formation. If you wanted to see the power of the array formation, you would have come long ago. Why wait half a year? Besides, if they wanted to see the array formation, they would send someone who knows it. Why would they send you?" Chapter 347. Wang Daoxing smiled and said, "12th uncle heard that you've refined a few second-tier mid-grade wine gourds. He said that he's the patriarch of the Zifu clan. The wine gourd he's using now is a first-tier storage magic tool with a very small space. So he wants to exchange it with you for a second-tier mid-grade wine gourd. He'll try his best to give you whatever you want." Wang Daoyuan glanced at him and said, "This is a small matter. It's not worth sending you here. What else do you want?" He began to falter. After a long time, he said with a distressed expression, "I still have some things to ask you. It just so happens that 12th uncle has something to do, so I came over. When you and 12th uncle tried to persuade me to marry Liang Zian, it really hurt me. The two of them didn't say a word the whole day. They just stared at each other, not even in the mood to cultivate. It's not convenient to tell 12th uncle about this, so I can only ask you for advice." Wang Daoyuan looked at him with a strange expression. "Second brother, are you kidding me? You have a Dao companion, and you're asking me, a century-old pure yang, how to get along with a woman?" Wang Daoxing scratched his head and said, "You've been resourceful since you were young. Help me come up with some ideas." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Then I'll give you an idea. Between husband and wife, there should always be some common topics. With common topics, There will be something to talk about. Wang Daoxing heard that there was hope and hurriedly asked, "How can we have common topics?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Common topics require common interests." Wang Daoxing said dejectedly, "My only hobby is fighting. What common interests do I have with a woman?" Wang Daoyuan said with a naughty smile, "Common interests can be cultivated." Then, he handed 2 roasted wild boar kidneys to Wang Daoxing. "Eat these 2 wild boar kidneys. When we go back, we'll have common interests." Wang Daoxing was skeptical, but he took the wild boar kidneys and ate them. This level 2 upper grade wild boar was 30 to 40 feet long, and its kidneys were not small either. Each of them was more than 3 feet long, and its effects were probably not weak. Fortunately, second brother walked the path of body refinement. Otherwise, he really wouldn't be able to eat 2 kidneys. Wang Daoyuan handed over a wine gourd and a dozen stalks of drunken dragon grass to him, and said, "Give the drunken dragon grass to 12th uncle, and let him research the drunken dragon brew. Treat it as an exchange for this wine gourd. I'll ask Yin Yi to send you back. Remember to immediately return to the Immortals cave to see second sister-in-law after you're done. Don't go to cultivate or fight. Otherwise you won't have a common hobby." Back then, he had made a deal with the old drunkard in the Netherworld sex equipment forging hall. If he helped him forge a flying boat, the old drunkard would give him the seeds of drunken dragon grass. After that, he did not go back on his words, and gave Wang Daoyuan 20 to 30 seeds. Wang Daoyuan planted the seeds of the drunken dragon grass in the spiritual bead space, in the reserved spiritual field near the life spiritual fire. The drunken dragon grass was a 3rd-level low-grade spiritual medicine. However, it did not take long to grow. It only needed 50 to 60 years to harvest. Although the spiritual medicine needed to brew the drunken dragon brew was very widespread, he really did not know the specific ratio. This was left to the 12th uncle, the professional, to do. Hearing that they could have a common hobby when they returned, Wang Daoxing quickly agreed. After the man and tiger left, Wang Daoyuan sighed. This second brother was really stupid. He had already married Liang Zian for more than 2 years, but he still did not know anything. When he returned, he had to help him refine a few kinds of medicinal pills to nourish his body. It was really hard to be a brother. He still had to worry about second brother. Wang Daoyuan patted his head and said, "Why didn't I think of refining this kind of medicinal pill before? The number of cultivators in the clan is too small. Wouldn't it be enough to refine this kind of medicinal pill and promote it among the clan members?" These years, the number of cultivators in the clan had increased rapidly, but it still could not keep up with the clan's expansion needs. In the past, he only thought of distributing spiritual grains to pregnant cultivators and close relatives. He did not think of doing it from other places. This time, he came up with this method to help second brother solve the problem. Thinking about it, he was a dignified punishment elder, whose status was comparable to the patriarch and the grand elder. He had never cared about the matters of the punishment hall, and had always taken the work of other elders. The work of the spirit talisman hall, the refining hall, the medicinal pill hall, and the formation division were all taken by him. Now, he had to take the work of the general affairs hall to solve the clan's population problem. He was really worried about the clan. The medicinal pill he wanted to refine was called the blood strengthening and qi replenishing pill. It was mainly used to nourish qi and blood, and had a strong tonic effect on some internal organs. The main ingredient of the blood strengthening and qi replenishing pill was the blood essence of a second-rank demonic beast. It did not need to have a high cultivation level. The supplementary ingredients were some spiritual medicines to replenish qi and blood and strengthen the body. Wang Daoyuan had all these things. It turned out that he had collected a lot of medicinal pills to nourish Dahei's body. Now he did not plant them in the space of the spiritual pearl, but he kept the seeds. These spiritual medicines were all first-rank, and they could be planted in first-rank spiritual fields. The clan took back the territory occupied by the Liang family for hundreds of years, and suddenly there were hundreds of acres of spiritual fields. 100 or 200 acres of first-rank spiritual fields were set aside to plant these spiritual medicines. there were still a few second-rank low-grade pill refiners in the clan's refining hall, and it was not difficult to refine them. In the future, they could refine them in large quantities and give them to the clan members who had Dao companions for free. In particular, those cultivators who had more concubines could be given 2 portions. In any case, this medicine was not a tiger or wolf medicine, but a pure tonic. It was even beneficial to cultivation, but it was a little too nourishing. The best source of blood essence was a demonic beast with abundant qi and blood like the fierce blood boar. However, the Wang family currently had to raise a large number of fierce blood boars, which was not reliable. They needed to set up a formation, and there must be a foundation establishment cultivator watching the formation at all times to suppress the fierce blood boars. It was not that the Wang family did not have a source of second-rank low-grade demonic beasts, so there was no need to waste energy raising fierce blood boars. Although there were not many second-rank demonic beasts and edible spiritual beasts for sale in Heian County, it was not a big problem to buy some to extract the blood essence and refine pills. However, it was a little difficult to transport the second-rank low-grade demonic beasts back. It was definitely unrealistic to put them in the flying boat. If these things resisted, the flying boat would be overturned. If the demonic beasts resisted, they would not be able to be put in the spirit beast pouch. Even if they were put in the spirit beast pouch after being knocked unconscious, they would still cause a ruckus when they woke up. The strength of the spirit beast pouch was not high. For safety reasons, Wang Daoyuan decided to refine a few second-rank low-grade demonic gourds that could subdue second-rank low-grade demonic beasts. After finishing these things, Wang Daoyuan also refined a few batches of blood-strengthening and qi-replenishing pills. Afterwards, he returned to the Jade Spring Peak and told the elders his idea. After returning to the Jade Spring Peak, he asked the 12th uncle to gather the elders. After the elders arrived, Dao Yuan took out the blood-strengthening and qi-replenishing pills and said to the 12th uncle and the elders, "I thought of a good method to quickly increase the number of cultivators in the family. This is a kind of medicinal pill I refined, called the blood-strengthening and qi-replenishing pill. It has the effect of replenishing qi and blood and strengthening the body. In addition, there are some small side effects. The medicinal effect is too strong, so cultivators who have not taken a wife should not eat it. I suggest that the family buy more supplementary ingredients for the blood-strengthening and qi-replenishing pills. In the future, the refining hall will refine them in large quantities and give them to the clansmen who have taken a wife and concubines for free. The main ingredient is the blood essence of second-rank low-grade demonic beasts, which can be purchased from the river Yang County. In order to make it easier to bring back living demonic beasts, I also refined a few demonic gourds. In addition, I suggest that the family issue a reward policy for cultivators. Children with spiritual roots will be rewarded. The more children they have, the more rewards they will receive. They can even directly give contribution points." Jiugu and the other female elders were embarrassed, but the male elders were very interested. The 12th uncle thought for a while and said with a smile, "This suggestion is not bad. The number of new cultivators in the family will definitely increase a lot in the future. Now the family has a surplus of tens of thousands of spirit stones every year. Instead of putting the spirit stones in the treasury, it is better to use them to strengthen the family. Elders, what do you think?" Chapter 348. The Wang clan was currently in a period of rapid growth. In the future, when Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shui opened their purple palaces, their strength would continue to rise. In addition, the Wang clan had been expanding and occupying more and more territory, so they needed more manpower. Now, regardless of whether it was the number of cultivators or mortals in the clan, they were seriously lacking. This time, they had recovered a large amount of territory, and the clan's assets had more than doubled, so they were even more lacking in manpower. Many underage cultivators were sent out to do some non-dangerous work. The various elders in the clan had also proposed many strategies to increase the population, but they didn't have any good ideas. Some elders proposed to open brothels like some clans that were seriously short of manpower to attract rogue cultivators. However, they were unanimously opposed. The Wang clan was more like a secular clan, and they valued the ordinary people in the clan. Most of the clansmen couldn't accept letting ordinary female clansmen do such things. In the end, they could only increase the subsidies for pregnant clansmen. It wasn't that no one had thought of using elixirs, but ordinary elixirs were like tigers and wolves. In order to increase the population, it would delay the cultivation of the cultivators, and not many clansmen were willing to eat such elixirs. Wang Daoyuan's elixirs weren't very brilliant, but the cost was too high. To refine them in large quantities, a lot of resources were needed. Now, Wang Daoyuan had made all the necessary preparations, and the channels to obtain resources were also arranged properly. They only needed people to carry it out step by step. The elders naturally didn't have any objections. After all, this was related to the clan's future, and also related to their descendants. Investing a little more spirit stones was nothing. Spending spirit stones to strengthen the clan, no matter how much they paid, they could get it back in the future. None of the elders had any objections, and all that was left was to discuss the detailed plan. Where to plant the spiritual herbs, how many to plant, how many to distribute to each cultivator, and how many rewards to give birth to children. These all needed to be discussed. Wang Daoyuan was too lazy to care about these small matters. After the reform, these matters were taken care of by the various halls, and he didn't need to care. After saying his suggestion and leaving the things, he left Jade Spring Peak on his sword and headed to Clear Sky Peak. Currently, there were no other Foundation establishment cultivators guarding Clear Sky Peak. There were only a few Qi refinement clansmen taking care of the businesses, and Wang Daoyuan was needed. The concentration of spirit Qi on Clear Sky Peak was enough, and it wouldn't delay his cultivation. Before his cultivation reached the peak of Foundation establishment, he didn't plan on going out again. 7 years later, Wang Daoyuan successfully broke through to the peak of Foundation establishment. During these 7 years, the clan gave out free blood strengthening and Qi replenishing pills to married cultivators every month. The effects were also very obvious. Just the cultivator clan alone gave birth to over 100 descendants. Before these children were born, their mothers had enough spiritual grains to eat and lived on the spiritual mountains. The proportion of cultivators among them should reach 20%. In addition to the children whose parents were both cultivators, there should be more than 20 cultivators among the 100 or so children. According to this calculation, there would be an average of 3 clansmen with spiritual roots born every year, which meant that there would be 150 in each generation. And this was only the descendants of cultivators, not the cultivators who appeared among the descendants of ordinary clansmen. In the future, when the number of cultivators increased, the number of descendants of cultivators born every year would also increase. Thus, the number of cultivators in the clan would also increase at an increasingly fast rate. It was just that these children were still young, so they couldn't test their spiritual roots. It was hard to say how many cultivators they could produce. Second brother Wang Daoxing and second sister-in-law also had the same hobby. The two of them had a pair of children. When the children were born, second brother specially went to Clear Sky Peak to thank him. Now that he had children, he had matured a lot. Second brother's 2 children had the bloodline of both the Wang and Liang clans. Naturally, the Liang clan attached great importance to them. They even specially sent Foundation establishment cultivators to deliver gifts. The new patriarch of the Liang clan, Liang Ziping, personally came to Jade Spring Peak to bring Liang Zian and the children back to their parents' home for a few days. The patriarch and the various elders were naturally very happy with the increase in the number of descendants of the cultivator clan. They asked the rank 2 pill masters in the medicine hall to continue to work hard and refine more pills. They also wanted to try to improve the pill formulas and increase the medicinal effects. Wang Daoyuan's cultivation had reached the peak of Foundation establishment, and he already had the conditions to open up his purple palace. If he could suddenly gain enlightenment, he would be able to open up his purple palace. The cultivation technique he cultivated was the 5-spirit immortal transformation technique, which had a very strong effect of strengthening the body. In addition, he often ate dragon heart fruits, so the strength of his body was quite good. Although it wasn't as resistant to beatings as a body-tempering technique, in terms of qi and blood, he didn't lose to ordinary body-tempering cultivators. There were many benefits to having a strong qi and blood. The main benefits were that the body was strong, and it was easier to recover from injuries. It also had a stronger resistance to beatings. Needless to say, his soul was even stronger. He used the inky jade lotus seeds as snacks. The strength of his soul and divine sense cultivation had already reached the limit of a foundation establishment cultivator. As long as a cultivator hadn't opened up his purple palace, it was almost impossible for them to compare with him in terms of soul strength and divine sense cultivation. Therefore, he didn't need to rely on the yin-yang purple jade or the purple cloudwood core to open up his purple palace. However, he didn't dare to take the risk. The main body of the spirit pearl's space was in his sea of consciousness. During the process of opening up his purple palace, there would be a huge change in his sea of consciousness. He didn't know if there would be any problems in the spirit pearl's space when the time came. If he didn't have the yin-yang purple jade or the purple cloudwood core to protect him, he really wouldn't be at ease. If there were any problems in the spirit pearl's space, he wouldn't even know how he died. It was better to get the yin-yang purple jade and make all the preparations he could. He would do his best and leave the rest to fate. He couldn't make decisions about fate, but he had to do his best. It had been more than 20 years since he left Beiyuan market. He still didn't know what the situation in Shanbei was. According to his previous estimation, Wu Yi's clone should have accumulated enough contribution points long ago. Wang Daoyuan now had more than 600,000 spirit stones. He originally wanted to take some from his family, but now it seemed that he didn't need them. Bai Sheng had been running the weapon workshop for more than 20 years. How could he not have 100,000 spirit stones? As the fourth steward of the Shanbei branch of the Blood Shadow branch, Wu Yi could get a commission from his subordinates. It was not difficult for him to take out 200,000 to 300,000 spirit stones. If there were no accidents, it wouldn't be difficult for him to exchange for the yin-yang purple jade with his current assets. He greeted the 12th uncle and asked the family to send someone to guard Qingyan Peak. He changed into a loose cultivator's hairstyle, hit his cultivation level, and headed east to the sky/mountain range. After going 500 to 600 miles into the sky/mountain range, he turned north. In order to avoid being recognized by Dahe and the others, he deliberately bypassed Fallen Dragon Ridge. After arriving in Shanbei, he changed his appearance to that of Wu Chuan and went to Beiyuan market. When he was 70 to 80 miles away from Beiyuan market, Wang Daoyuan activated the panoramic perception of Bai Sheng's clone to see what had happened over the years. If his clone was exposed, he would be walking right into a trap if he went there. He sensed Bai Sheng and found that there was nothing wrong with him. All these years, Bai Sheng had been staying in the weapon workshop. Other than cultivating, he was refining weapons. Bai Ying of the White Fox tribe still came 3 to 4 times a year to ask him to help her refine magic weapons. Most of the magic weapons were made from the bones of wolf-type demonic beasts. She didn't ask Bai Sheng to refine any precious magic weapons. There was nothing wrong with Bai Sheng. He then sensed the situation of Wu Yi and Lu Zong. Both of them had entered the Blood Shadow branch and were in more danger. Wu Yi was the most important. He was nurtured by Crimson Fox and was the key to obtaining the yin-yang purple jade. Even for the Blood Shadow, the yin-yang purple jade was not something that could be taken out casually. If one was not a direct descendant of Crimson Fox, even if they could gather enough contribution points and spirit stones, they might not be able to exchange for it. This could be seen from the 3 stewards, who were at the peak of the foundation establishment stage, especially Yu Lang. He had been in the Blood Shadow branch for many years, and was still at the peak of the foundation establishment stage. Wu Yi was considered a direct descendant of Crimson Fox, and had the highest chance of success. Chapter 349. However, Wu Yi had been leading a comfortable life these few years. He already had more than 30 foundation establishment cultivators, and more than 200 qi refinement cultivators under him. The number of subordinates he had as a steward was equivalent to 2 stewards. And this was after he gave Lu Zong a portion of his subordinates. Lu Zong was now the 5th steward, and had more than 10 foundation establishment cultivators and 70 to 80 qi refinement cultivators under him. The strength under him was only slightly weaker than the other 3 stewards. In the Blood Shadow North Mountain branch, Scarlet Fox's strength completely overshadowed the Deputy Hall Master, Mystic Martin. Out of the 5 stewards, she had 3 stewards under her while Mystic Martin only had 2 stewards under her. Even if Quiet Wolf was considered neutral, the strength that Wu Yi and Lu Zong had was still stronger than the 2 stewards under Mystic Martin. All these years, Scarlet Fox had the power to assign missions, and would always give dangerous missions to Mystic Martin's subordinates. The cultivators under Mystic Martin had more severe casualties. However, she had the support of the headquarters and sufficient resources to recruit new people. Thus, she could continue to maintain the situation. Scarlet Fox could go from being suppressed by Mystic Martin to suppressing Mystic Martin. This huge change was entirely brought about by Wu Yi. He had been recruiting for the past few years, which allowed Scarlet Fox's strength to expand so quickly. Scarlet Fox's attitude towards this great contributor was naturally very good. All these years, missions with low risks and high rewards were all taken by Scarlet Fox and given to Wu Yi's subordinates. Missions with lower risks were given to Lu Zong's subordinates. Missions with equal risks and rewards were given to Quiet Wolf. Dangerous missions were naturally given to Mystic Martin's subordinates. Wu Yi's results over the past few years were also very impressive. He already had more than 400,000 contribution points. Excluding his usual cultivation expenditure, he still had more than 300,000 spirit stones. Lu Zong also had more than 100,000 contribution points and over 100,000 spirit stones. His cultivation had also reached the peak of foundation establishment. Originally, his clone's comprehension was weaker, and there was a gap from foundation establishment level 9 to foundation establishment peak. However, with Scarlet Fox's personal guidance, he only used 5 years to go from foundation establishment level 9 to foundation establishment peak, which was much faster than Wang Daoyuan. As someone brought into Blood Shadow by Wu Yi, Lu Zong could be considered half of Scarlet Fox's subordinates, and had also received a lot of guidance. In addition, Lu Zong's talent was stronger than Wu Yi's. It only took him 4 years to successfully break through to the peak of foundation establishment. Although the Wang clan had the cultivation experience left behind by the old ancestor, compared to the Blood Shadow behind Crimson Fox, that bit of inheritance of the Wang clan was completely insufficient. The Blood Shadow clan was a great force that had been passed down for tens of thousands of years. Their background was not something that a clan like the Wang clan, which was less than 700 years old, could compare to. Knowing that his 3 clones were safe and sound, Wang Daoyuan felt relieved and boldly headed to the market. He came to the door of the Wu family's weapon refining workshop and went straight to the backyard. Even though he had lost contact with his doppelganger, its intelligence was not lower than that of an ordinary person. Moreover, the split soul could check the memories of the clone. Bai Sheng's avatar was a cultivator who snatched treasures, so he was very experienced in scheming against others. In addition, the doppelganger did not have its own consciousness. After losing contact with the doppelganger, its only thought was how to serve the main body. Without the presence of the main body, he would not cause any trouble. All these years, Bai Sheng had not encountered any danger at all. He had spent most of his energy on weapon refinement, and had been refining weapons for the White Fox tribe all these years. He had saved up a lot of spirit stones, which was more than 300,000. The spirit stones in the hands of the 3 clones were more than enough to exchange for the yin-yang purple jade. After Wu Yi exchanged for the yin-yang purple jade, Wang Daoyuan would use it to open up his purple palace and nurture Lu Zong, so that he would also be qualified to exchange for the yin-yang purple jade. Wang Daoyuan arrived at the Guiyan market and could directly control his doppelganger. All these years, his doppelganger had not caused any trouble, and Shanbei was considered peaceful. Now it was time to stir up trouble again. As for the yin-yang purple jade, He could not let his doppelganger Wu Yi mention it directly. He had to test it first. Coincidentally, 2 days after Wang Daoyuan returned to the Guiyuan market, Crimson Fox asked Wu Yi to go to her cave abode. Wu Yi was now Crimson Fox's most trusted subordinate. Any confidential matters were handed to him. Wang Daoyuan used a panoramic perception on his doppelganger Wu Yi. He did not need to deliberately control his doppelganger. That would be easy to reveal flaws instead. Doppelganger Wu Yi entered Crimson Fox's cave abode. He had been here often these few years, and could be considered familiar with the place. After entering the cave abode, he directly sat on a stone chair. Crimson Fox took out a jade slip and handed it to Wu Yi, saying, "This is the new target." All these years, it was him who kept sending resources to the Beiyuan sword sect. The headquarters paid a huge price to figure out the source of the Beiyuan sword sect's spirit medicines. This person came from Linhai Prefecture, and should be Lord Linhai's man. Each time he sent resources, he went against the flow from Linhai Prefecture to Wanchuan Market. After staying for half a month, he arrived at Clear Glass Market, and stayed for another 2 months. Then, he arrived at Gold Goose City, and stayed for a few days before coming to Guiyuan Market, and staying at the Guiyuan Inn. If not for the fact that Guiyuan Inn has little business now, we really wouldn't have noticed him. This person carries a lot of resources on him. He most likely has a high-grade spatial treasure. The price of this thing starts at 100,000 spirit stones. The better ones are above 200,000. In addition to the resources he carries on him, we can get at least 500,000 spirit stones by taking him down. This person has been moving around in the Netherworld sect's territory and is extremely cautious. It's not easy for the other branches to make a move. Therefore, this task fell on our heads. We must take him down after he leaves Gold Goose City, and before he arrives at Guiyuan Market. I'll leave this to you. After it's done, half of the harvest will be handed over, and the other half will go to the person carrying out the mission. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan was a little excited. It felt great to make use of Blood Shadow for free. He didn't have to trouble himself. A fat sheep came to him automatically. He really wanted to take this fat sheep for himself. Unfortunately, he still had to get the yin-yang purple jade from Crimson Fox. If this mission failed and Crimson Fox was disappointed in Wu Yi, it would affect the exchange of the yin-yang purple jade. Wu Yi probed into the jade slip with his divine sense, and saw that this person's basic situation was recorded inside. This person's cultivation was also Peak Foundation establishment. In Blood Shadow's intelligence, there was no record of him fighting anyone. His combat strength could not be determined. This person was temporarily staying at Clear Glass Market. He had already stayed for a month, and would stay for another month or so before leaving. Wu Yi pondered for a moment and said, "Hall Master, this person's combat strength is unknown. I don't have the confidence to take him down by myself. I want to bring Lu Zong along and mobilize all the powerful Foundation establishment cultivators under us. We'll try to kill him in one blow." Crimson Fox nodded and smiled. "You're indeed someone who cares about the big picture. You're cut out to be a Vice Hall Master, or even a Hall Master. I originally wanted to send you and Lu Zong together, or I'll send a few cultivators directly under you. Since you've brought it up yourself, then let Lu Zong accompany you." Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was secretly delighted. This was the best opportunity to sound him out. Wu Yi's clone probed, "May I ask, Hall Master, how can a cultivator like me become a Vice Hall Master?" Crimson Fox glanced at him and smiled lightly. "You want to be a Vice Hall Master? That's not impossible. You were nurtured by me. You're loyal and capable. You even helped me suppress that bitch Xian Martin. If you can become a Vice Hall Master, you might be able to push Xian Martin away." The Vice Hall Masters of the various branches of Blood Shadow were mostly Zifu realm cultivators, nurtured by the branches. A small number of them were directly appointed by the headquarters. For example, Xian Martin. "If you can establish a Violet Palace, I can apply to the headquarters to appoint you as a Vice Hall Master. If you do well as a Vice Hall Master, you might be promoted to Hall Master. If you do well as a Hall Master, you might be transferred to the headquarters and become a middle or upper echelon of Blood Shadow." "Why, You want to establish a violet palace? Chapter 350. Wu Yi's clone nodded embarrassedly and smiled. Even in my dreams. Scarlet Fox let out a charming laugh and walked half a foot away from Wu Yi. She asked, "Don't you think of anything else in your dreams?" Such a simple tease had no effect on a wily old fox like Wang Daoyuan. He took out the profound ice jade essence and held it in his hand without any ripples in his heart. On the other hand, Wu Yi's face turned red, and he was at a loss. Scarlet Fox smiled. "Forget it, I won't tease you anymore. In order to help the branch recruit talents, the headquarters will send a piece of yin-yang purple jade every 100 years. I have 2 pieces with me now. I didn't have any suitable subordinates in the past, so I didn't let anyone exchange for them. If Spirit Wolf opens his Violet Palace, he will definitely be harder to deal with than Mystic Martin. Therefore, I've been stuck with him for a few decades. He's also a coward, and he doesn't dare to forcefully open his Violet Palace. You were nurtured by me. Although your cultivation talent is lacking, you're strong enough and you're loyal to me. You're the best candidate to open your Violet Palace. As long as you can successfully open your Violet Palace and become a Vice Hall Master, you'll be a role model for other Foundation establishment cultivators. The subordinates of that bitch Mystic Martin will also want to join me. At that time, my enemy in the headquarters will no longer support Mystic Martin." Wang Daoyuan didn't know about Scarlet Fox's background, but he was very interested when he heard what she said. Wu Yi also showed a curious expression. It seemed to be a man's nature to be interested in a beauty's private matters. Scarlet Fox looked at Wu Yi and smiled bitterly. "I've been living in the Blood Shadow headquarters since I was young. My father is one of them. Not long after I started cultivating, I joined Blood Wolf. Later on, I offended a Golden Core cultivator during the competition for the right to open my Violet Palace. I was supposed to enter the upper echelons of the Blood Shadow, but I was pushed out of the headquarters and became a branch hall master in the northern part of the mountain. My father was also sent to carry out dangerous missions and died. However, I couldn't live peacefully in the branch because my enemy sent Mystic Martin to suppress me. I don't have any hope of returning to the headquarters, so I place my hopes on my own subordinates. I hope to nurture a confidant and help him enter the upper echelons of the Blood Shadow to avenge me. Your talent can only be considered above average. Even if you open your Violet Palace, you won't have the possibility of forming your Golden Core. I originally wanted to find an extremely talented and loyal cultivator to nurture. Unfortunately, cultivators with the potential to reach the Golden Core realm were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns, who would be willing to submit to others. I've spent more than 100 years, but I still haven't found anyone I'm satisfied with. Now I don't have any hope for revenge. I just want to manage the Shanbei branch well, so that my enemy can't interfere here. If it's just to guard the northern mountain branch, then letting you open your Zifu is the best choice. Alright, do you have enough contribution points and spirit stones? Wu Yi nodded and said, I already have more than 400,000 contribution points and 300,000 spirit stones. Borrow some from Lu Zong and the others. If we can successfully complete the mission this time, it should be enough. Crimson Fox nodded and said, Then once you complete this assignment, no matter if you have sufficient spirit stones or not, I'll allow you to exchange for it. It's still the same words. You must remember that you belong to me, Crimson Fox, and not Blood Shadow. In the future, when you become the Vice Hall Master, you have to work harder for me. Obtaining Crimson Fox's promise, Wang Daoyuan was very excited in his heart. Choosing to let Wu Yi enter Blood Shadow back, then was truly an incomparably correct decision. Previously, he really didn't expect that Crimson Fox would actually trust Wu Yi so much. Originally, he thought that he still had to test him. He didn't expect that Crimson Fox would agree so easily. Wu Yi bowed solemnly and said, Rest assured, Hall Master. Wu Yi will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire for Hall Master. Crimson Fox nodded in satisfaction. I'm still at ease with you. This time, how to intercept and kill Duke Linhai's people will all depend on you. In terms of intelligence, I'll send someone to contact you. You go and prepare. Wu Yi turned around and was about to leave Crimson Fox's abode when Crimson Fox said again, "I've never told anyone about my private matters. Make sure not to spread it out." Wu Yi bowed and said, "This subordinate will definitely keep my mouth shut." Actually, this matter didn't need Wu Yi to leak it. Wang Daoyuan already knew about it now. Even his clones were clear about it. After leaving Crimson Fox's abode, Wu Yi headed to Lu Zong's abode to discuss the matter of cooperating to complete the mission. Actually, there was no need for them to communicate at all. Once Wang Daoyuan knew, the other clones would also all know. Of course, in a dangerous place, putting on an act was still indispensable. This mission was equivalent to obtaining the Yin-Yang Purple Jades test. Only success was allowed and failure was not allowed. Wang Daoyuan decided to let all the cultivators who reached middle stage foundation establishment under Wu Yi and Lu Zong's two subordinates take action together. He himself also personally went to the battlefield to command. They must take down this fat sheep. If not for being afraid of being seen through by Crimson Fox's people, he really wanted to personally take down the enemy. After Wu Yi and Lu Zong's two clones pretended to discuss for a while, they both pretended as if nothing had happened. After all, there was still more than a month to the day of taking action. Letting their subordinates know so early was very easy to leak the news. As long as the two stewards were prepared, it would do. It was not too late to inform the others a few days before the operation. In the following time, the two clones also went out to buy some medicinal pills, spirit talismans, and the like. Crimson Fox sent people to report the target's intelligence to Wu Yi every day. A month later, Crimson Fox sent people to report that the target had already left Clearly City. Because Clearly City was not under the jurisdiction of the North Mountain branch, the intelligence was transferred by the Clearly branch, and the news was a little late. At this time, the target should have already arrived at Gold Goose City. This guy was very cautious. The time he stayed in Gold Goose City was not fixed. At most, it would be 10 days, at least 3 to 5 days. It was time to intercept and kill him within 3 days at the earliest. Wu Yi and Lu Zong immediately began to gather their trusted subordinates to prepare to intercept and kill. Wu Yi had more subordinates. There were a total of 7 cultivators who were trustworthy and not weak, and 2 of them were in the late stage of foundation establishment. Lu Zong had fewer subordinates. There were only 2 people who met the conditions, and only one of them was in the late stage of foundation establishment. This time, there were 2 peak foundation establishment, 3 late foundation establishment, and 6 foundation establishment cultivators participating in the operation. With so many people besieging a peak foundation establishment, as long as the person sent by Lord Linhai was not someone like Wang Daoyuan, it could be said that it was basically safe. If this guy really had the same fighting strength as Wang Daoyuan, he would not be sent out to run errands. This peak foundation establishment cultivator should be better at hiding than having a strong fighting strength. No matter how strong a foundation establishment cultivator was, he could not be stronger than a Zifu realm cultivator. He had to pass through the territory of the Netherworld sect. The stronger he was, the more conspicuous he would be, and the easier it would be to kill him. With the strength of the Blood Shadow, it would take decades to track this person, and there was no record of him fighting. Then this person should be extremely good at hiding, and possibly good at escaping. The possibility of him being good at fighting was not high. After 2 hours, Red Fox sent someone again to inform that the target had already checked into the Immortal Guest House in Gold Goose City. This person would choose one of 2 roads from Gold Goose City to Beiyuan Market. The intelligence personnel of the Blood Shadow also did not find any pattern when he chose the road. Of these 2 roads, one was flying along Gold Goose Valley to Beiyuan Market. The other was 200 miles east of Gold Goose Valley, flying back to Wild Goose Mountain, and then entering the market from the eastern area of Beiyuan Market. These 2 roads were often taken by rogue cultivators. Taking these 2 roads was not conspicuous. It was just that it was uncertain which road he would take. Wang Daoyuan decided to let the 2 doppelgangers lead people to lie in ambush on the sides of the 2 roads. The Blood Shadow had intelligence personnel to monitor this person. The 2 roads were only 200 miles apart. For a middle and late foundation establishment cultivator, this distance was nothing. As long as the intelligence personnel confirmed the whereabouts of this person, the two teams would be able to support each other in a short time. Chapter 351. The ambush location Wang Daoyuan chose was between Guiyuan Market and Golden Goose City. If it was too close to Golden Goose City, the commotion would attract the cultivators of Netherworld School in Golden Goose City. Moreover, it was impossible to predict which route the target would choose in advance. The two clones each led a team and spread out to ambush. If it was too close to Golden Goose City, and the battle broke out too early, only one team would be able to fight the target. The other team might not be able to support in time, and might cause the target to escape. And if it was too close to Guiyuan Market, once it failed, the target would quickly escape into Guiyuan Market, and they wouldn't be able to make a move. After setting the location, Wang Daoyuan personally went to the center of the two ambush locations. His spiritual sense cultivation had improved a lot now, and the range of his clones with panoramic perception had reached 150 to 60 li. He could control two clones at the same time in the hiding place. No matter which route he encountered the target, Wang Daoyuan could control the clones to fight. The two clones gathered their men and prepared to set off. Two late-stage foundation building cultivators found them. One of them saluted and said, "Greetings, stewards. The hall master ordered us brothers to come and help you." Wu Yi asked, "What are your names and what skills do you have? Tell me in advance, so I can arrange tasks for you." The man saluted and said, "I'm Uncle Zhuang, my brother is Zhuang Zhong. The two of us brothers each have a magic rope called Demon Binding Rope. Although it's only a high-grade magic tool of the second rank, its material is extraordinary. As long as it binds the enemy, cultivators below the Zifu realm won't be able to break free. When the two stewards fight with the target, we brothers can control the demon binding rope to launch a sneak attack. As long as the sneak attack is successful, we can take down the target. In the case where Wang Daoyuan didn't make a move, the 11 of them could defeat the target without any problem. But the target of the mission might have an extremely strong ability to escape. This group of assassins relied on sneak attacks to kill people. If they couldn't kill in one blow, and the target was determined to escape, they really didn't have full confidence to take down the target. Now that Scarlet Fox sent two direct cultivators, it was hard to say how strong they were in a fight. But since Scarlet Fox sent them, it meant that the Zhuang brothers weren't useless. Their demon binding rope should be somewhat useful. With an extra monkey, one would have a bit more strength, not to mention two helpers with special magic tools. It would be a waste not to have them. Wu Yi brought two late-stage foundation establishment cultivators, two middle-stage foundation establishment cultivators, and Uncle Zhuang. Lu Zong brought one late-stage foundation establishment cultivator, 4 middle-stage foundation establishment cultivators, and Zhuang Zhong. The group of 13 people split up and left returning Wild Goose Market and gathered near the ambush location. Wu Yi's ambush location was beside the Golden Goose Valley, 1,000 miles south of the Carriage Gorge. Lu Zong's ambush location was about 200 li east of Wu Yijing. Wang Daoyuan himself was hiding in the middle of the two ambush points. In order to facilitate mutual support, each team stationed a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator 500 miles south of the ambush point. After discovering the target, he would immediately report it to the manager, so that the two teams would have enough time to support each other. After 5 days of ambush, news came from Scarlet Fox's side. The intelligence personnel of Gold Goose City discovered that the target had left Gold Goose City and was flying north on his sword. The place where Wu Yi ambushed was in the north of Golden Goose City. 15 minutes after receiving Scarlet Fox's news, the middle stage foundation establishment cultivator that Wu Yi sent 500 li south sent news that the target had already appeared and was heading north along the returning Wild Goose Valley. His clone Lu Zong also brought his subordinates and immediately approached Wu Yi's side. 15 minutes later, Lu Zong and Wu Yi's groups of 11 people gathered. There were still 2 sentries in the south who had yet to rush over. A few minutes later, a cultivator at the peak of the foundation establishment stage, with a long beard flew towards them on his sword. This was the cultivator that was mentioned in the intelligence report to deliver resources to Beiyuan sword sect. Wu Yi's clone and the others used Earth escape talismans to hide underground. When the target flew above the ambush point, 11 flying swords soared into the sky. The long-bearded cultivator was also extremely vigilant. He made a sharp turn in the air on his sword and retreated, dodging the first wave of attacks from the flying swords. The 11 flying swords spread out and surrounded the long-bearded cultivator from all directions. They wanted to force him to give up on flying on his sword and then beat him up. However, the long-bearded cultivator was not fooled. He took out a stack of Grade 2 superior grade spirit talismans and scattered them around without looking at how many there were. Foundation establishment cultivators could fly on their swords and also attack from a distance. Offensive spirit talismans were not very effective against Foundation establishment cultivators. However, it was an extremely good choice to use offensive spirit talismans to block the attacks of flying swords. The 11 flying swords were all repelled by the attacks of the hundreds of offensive spirit talismans. The long-bearded cultivator changed his direction and flew towards the south, wanting to return to Gold Goose City to hide. His speed of flying on his sword was not very fast, only around 2,200 to 300 li per hour. Wu Yi and Lu Zong had both learned the returning wild sword technique and could barely be considered as sword cultivators. Although their strength was not great, their speed of flying on their swords could reach 2,700 to 800 li per hour. The long-bearded cultivator's speed was far inferior to the two of them. This place was around 2,000 li away from Gold Goose City and returning Wild Goose Market. If he did not have any helpers, he would not be able to escape no matter what. After the long-bearded cultivator turned towards the south, Wu Yi and Lu Zong flanked him from the east and west. The two of them were faster than him. He had to frequently throw back talismans to repel the two of them, to ensure that he would not be blocked. The others were slower, but they were not left behind. Especially the Zhuang brothers. Although they were in the late stage of Foundation establishment, their flying speed was not slower than the long-bearded cultivator. They followed closely behind the three of them, not giving the long-bearded cultivator a chance to escape to the north. The group of people flew towards the south for more than 100 li. Suddenly, 2 flying swords blocked the long-bearded cultivator's path. The owners of these 2 flying swords were the 2 cultivators, who were previously on sentry duty 500 li south of the ambush point. They were in the middle stage of Foundation establishment. Their flying speed was not as fast as the long-bearded cultivators, and they were afraid of being discovered. Therefore, they only arrived here now. They just happened to see their brothers chasing after the target, so they took action to stop them. The long-bearded cultivator was in a hurry to escape. His energy was focused on blocking the 2 sides and behind him. He did not notice that there were 2 people in front of him. Now that he was attacked by 2 flying swords, he could only dodge in a hurry. This time, his speed slowed down, and the people chasing behind quickly surrounded him. The long-bearded cultivator pretended to be innocent, saying, "Daoyu, how did I offend you to provoke you to come to kill me?" Lu Zong opened his mouth and said, "We only want money." As a peak stage Foundation establishment cultivator, Daoyu must have a lot of good things on you. Leave your treasures behind and we'll spare your life. While they were talking, Wu Yi's clone was not idle. Just as the long-bearded cultivator was about to reply, dozens of sword phantoms attacked him. He had a lot of combat experience, so he took out a yellow shield to block the sword phantom's attacks. At the same time, his body retreated towards the south. There were only 2 middle-stage Foundation establishment cultivators there. If he wanted to force his way through, the 2 of them would not be able to stop him. When the sword phantoms hit the shield, Wu Yi shouted, "Do it!" The Zhuang brothers immediately took out their demon-binding ropes. 2 30-feet-long golden ropes flew towards the long-bearded cultivator. The long-bearded cultivator was in the middle of blocking the myriad sword art, so he did not react in time. By the time he wanted to escape, it was already too late. Under the control of his divine sense, these demon-binding ropes flew much faster than sword kinesis flight. The long-bearded cultivator had nowhere to run, and was tightly bound by the 2 demon-binding ropes. However, he did not give up resisting. The spirit energy on his body fluctuated intensely, wanting to break free from the demon-binding ropes. To prevent any accidents from happening, Wu Yi shouted, "Kill!" 13 flying swords flew towards the long-bearded cultivator. Before he could release any spells, his heart was pierced by the swords. After confirming that he was dead, Wu Yi's clone searched his body. He found a high-grade second-stage magic tool flying sword, a storage ring and 2 storage bags. Chapter 352. It was needless to say that the universe ring was a high-grade spatial treasure. Even the 2 storage pouches had the ability to recognize its owner. Although the original owner was dead, it couldn't be opened without recognizing its owner. It would take some time to do so. A battle had just taken place here. It might attract the attention of wandering cultivators. Wu Yi and the others didn't stay any longer. After sending a message to Scarlet Fox, they immediately dispersed and returned to Beiyuan Market. The traces left here would be cleaned up by professionals. Wang Daoyuan himself appeared and pretended to be a passing cultivator. He followed Wu Yi from afar to prevent him from being killed. These things were his hope of obtaining the yin-yang purple jade. He couldn't afford to lose them. Wu Yi was also at the peak of Foundation establishment. Even if there were cultivators who wanted to snatch the treasures, they wouldn't dare to attack him. They returned to Beiyuan Market without any danger. There wouldn't be any danger after entering Beiyuan Market. Wang Daoyuan didn't follow, and returned to Wu Clan's equipment forging workshop. Wu Yi and Lu Zong both returned to the northern branch of Blood Shadow Mountain. Wu Yi went to Scarlet Fox's cave residence and handed the ring and storage pouch to him. After Scarlet Fox recognized the universe ring and storage pouch, he opened the universe ring and exclaimed, "This Lord Linhai is really generous. Even the tools used to deliver the goods are such high-quality universe rings. The space inside the universe ring is 10 square feet. Such a large spatial treasure can be auctioned off for at least 300,000 spirit stones." He opened 2 more storage pouches and said with a smile, "We've really caught a big fish this time. The spirit herbs, elixirs, refining materials, magic tools, and other materials inside are worth more than 700,000 spirit stones. Including the universe ring, it's more than 1,000,000 spirit stones. There are also 2 rank 3 demon beast cores that can be used to refine Foundation establishment elixirs. The Zhao clan really values the Guthyuan sword sect. It seems that they want to turn the Guthyuan sword sect into a sharp knife to counterattack the Netherworld sect. Alright, I'll take all these goods. You'll get 300,000 spirit stones from this trip. I'll also pay for the others' rewards. Now, you're about a few tens of thousands of spirit stones to exchange for the yin-yang purple jade. I'll make it up for you. Do you want to exchange for the yin-yang purple jade now?" Wu Yi replied without hesitation. "I've already made preparations to establish my Violet Palace. I'll exchange it now." Crimson Fox nodded and said, "Alright, I'll go get the yin-yang violet jade for you right away." After saying that, she turned around and walked into the cave. She opened the innermost arched door and walked in. After a quarter of an hour, she walked out of the arched door and handed a storage pouch to Wu Yi, saying, "The yin-yang cub is inside. Apart from that, there are also some insights I had when I was establishing my Violet Palace. It should be of some help to you." At this moment, Wang Daoyuan, who was in the weapon refining workshop, could not help but sigh at how good it was to live off a woman. Wu Yi immediately bowed and said, "Many thanks for Hallmaster's kindness. Even if this subordinate were to sacrifice his life, it would still be difficult to repay Hallmaster's kindness." Crimson Fox withdrew another command token and said, "There's no need to be courteous. Help me suppress that bitch, the dark mink. To me, this is worth more than a few 100,000 spirit stones. Take the medallion and go to Green Wolf to hand over the spirit stones and contribution points." Also, when he opened his Violet Palace, purple light filled the sky. Furthermore, this purple light cannot be obstructed by any formation. Even if it's deep underground, it can still be seen from the outside. If you open up your Violet Palace in our branch, then our branch will be completely exposed. Do you have a place to open up your Violet Palace? Wu pondered for a moment and said, "In the heaven/mountain range, the ancient cultivator's cave that I hid in before. There are many restrictions in the depths of the cave. If I open up my violet palace there, even if demonic beasts are attracted by the purple light, they won't be able to do anything. They won't be able to break through the restrictions in a short period of time. That place can be used to open up my violet palace." Crimson Fox nodded and said, "I don't have a suitable place in my hands. Since you feel that it's suitable, then go there. I can't leave the branch for a long period of time. Otherwise, that bitch, the dark mink, will definitely seize the opportunity to seize power. I still have to stay in the branch to guard against her, so I won't be able to protect you. Take care of yourself." Wu cupped his hands and said, "Thank you for your trouble, Hall Master. I have accumulated for many years, and with the Yin Yang cub, the chances of opening up my violet palace are extremely high. Hall Master, you don't have to delay the important matters in the branch for me. I'll go hand in the contribution points and spirit stones. Then I'll go to the ancient cultivator's cave and bid farewell to Hall Master." Crimson Fox waved his hand and said, "Go. The heaven/mountain range is filled with demonic beasts. That ancient cultivator's cave isn't far from the heaven/mountain range, so the chances of encountering a third-grade demonic beast are very high. You're lucky that you didn't encounter a third-grade demonic beast previously. This time, you have to be even more careful. Now that you have the hope of opening up your violet palace, it would be a great loss if you die now." Wu promised again and again that he would be careful. He opened the storage pouch in his hand and looked at the Yin Yang cub inside. The Yin Yang cub was extremely famous. Wang Daoyuan had only heard of it many times, but he had never seen it before. There was a palm-sized purple stone in the storage pouch. The stone's brilliance was restrained, and there was nothing strange about its appearance. Only by using his spiritual sense to probe the stone could he sense the vast amount of purple qi contained within. However, the purple qi was extremely gentle and was far from being as violent as spiritual power. When absorbing the purple qi into his sea of consciousness, he didn't have to worry about the risk of damaging his meridians. After looking at the Yin Yang cub, he tied the storage pouch and kept it close to his body. His outer clothes were made of spirit-forbidding silk and other materials. With the storage pouch inside, outsiders wouldn't be able to detect it with their spiritual sense. Afterward, he left Scarlet Fox's cave and went to Green Wolf's place to hand over his contribution points and spirit stones. Green Wolf was Scarlet Fox's trusted aide. In the past, he had helped Scarlet Fox manage human affairs. Now that Scarlet Fox had more subordinates, he had a stronger backbone and was competing with the Black Marten for power. The power that he took back was all given to Green Wolf. Now, the human affairs and the exchange of resources were all in Green Wolf's hands. Although his position wasn't high and was even inferior to a manager, his real power was comparable to the Vice Hall Master. Wu came to Green Wolf's place. Both of them were the Hall Master's trusted aides, so they naturally had a good relationship. Seeing Wu come in, Green Wolf smiled and said, "Manager Wu, you've been riding high these years. Why are you here? Could it be that there's a newcomer? Since you're here personally, the newcomer must be at least mid-stage foundation establishment, right?" Wu waved his hand and said, "Riding high? It's all because of the Hall Master's trust. I'm not as good as you in this aspect. Your position isn't high, but your power is much greater than a manager like me. I'm not here to take in new members, but to exchange for some things." After saying that, he flashed the token that Scarlet Fox gave him, then glanced at the door. Green Wolf immediately understood and closed the door, asking, "What do you want to exchange for, Brother Wu?" Wu said softly, "I've already taken the things from the Hall Master. He asked me to come over and hand over the contribution points and spirit stones." As Scarlet Fox's trusted aide, Green Wolf naturally knew what this meant. Wu handed over his identity token to him, and then left all the spirit stones he had on him. Green Wolf took the spirit stones, deducted the contribution points, and returned the identity token to Wu. Wu took the token and left the place. When he was outside, he bumped into Yulang. The two of them were both subordinates of the Hall Master. Their relationship wasn't very good, but it wasn't bad either. Yu Lang smiled and said, "What a coincidence to meet Manager Wu here. It seems like Manager Wu has found another good seedling. In terms of recruitment, you're the #1 expert in our North Mountain branch. You'll have to give me some pointers in the future." Yu Lang's tone was kind, and Wu Yi also smiled and replied, "Brother Yu Lang is too kind. In terms of assassination ability, you're the #1 in our branch. Please give me some pointers in the future." The two of them chatted for a while. Then Yu Lang entered Green Wolf's place, while Wu Yi left the branch. Chapter 353. Blood Shadow had many informants, so Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to let Wu Yi directly give him the Yin Yang Purple Jade. If that was the case, he probably wouldn't be able to leave returning Wild Goose Market alive. He left the workshop and headed southeast to meet up with Wu Yi at Mount Huiyan, which was southeast of the market. After that, Wang Daoyuan planned to open his Violet Palace in the Five Elements Secret Realm. The Secret Realm and Beiyuan Xiuxian weren't in the same space, so the purple light from opening his Violet Palace couldn't penetrate the Secret Realm. Blood Shadow Branch, Yu Lang came to Qing Lang's place. He saw Qing Lang counting spirit stones in a storage bag and asked, "I've recruited a decent rogue cultivator. Please enter his information." I saw Manager Wu run out with a face full of joy. "Did you recruit some good seedlings?" Yu Lang was one of the Hall Master's people, so Qing Lang didn't guard against him and said, "Manager Wu exchanged some things, but he didn't recruit anyone. Please wait a moment. I'll do it for you after I finish counting the spirit stones." Hearing this, Yu Lang thought for a while and asked, "What did Manager Wu exchange for to make a peak foundation establishment stage cultivator so happy?" Hearing this, Qing Lang remembered that Yu Lang had long wanted to exchange for the Yin Yang Purple Jade, but was stopped by the Hall Master. He smiled and said, "It's nothing much, just 2 foundation establishment pills to recruit people." Yu Lang was also an old fox, so how could he not see that Qing Lang was lying? If Wu Yi was only exchanging for something ordinary, Qing Lang didn't have to hide it from him. If Wu Yi couldn't let him know, then it was very likely to be the Yin Yang Purple Jade. Thinking up to here, Yu Lang cupped his hands and said, "Brother Qing Lang, I have something urgent to attend to. Leave the identity token here. I'll come back later to get it." With that, he turned and walked out. After Wu Yi left the branch, he headed south. He planned to leave from the southern area of the market and head east to meet up with Yu Lang. Yu Lang left the underground branch and came to the Immortal Welcoming Inn's lobby. He transmitted his voice to the shopkeeper and asked, "Where did Manager Wu go? I have something to talk to him about." The shopkeeper didn't think much of it and replied, "He went south." At this time, Wu Yi was dressed as a rogue cultivator. In order not to attract attention, he did not fly on his sword. Instead, he slowly walked on the ground. Returning Wild Goose City Square did not have a flight restriction order. As long as one did not fight in the city square, there would not be any forces interfering. It was just that flying over someone's head on a sword was a little offensive. Generally speaking, cultivators wouldn't care about this. However, if they were to encounter a bad-tempered and extremely powerful cultivator, a fight would be inevitable. In order to avoid such a situation, most cultivators would not fly on their swords in the marketplace. This was especially true for the members of Blood Shadow. They were absolutely not allowed to fly on their swords in the marketplace. Yu Lang was already over 200 years old and was nearing the end of his lifespan. The opportunity to open the Violet Palace was right in front of him. So how could he care about such things? He rode his sword from the western region to the southern part of Guiyan Market. They arrived at the southern end of Guiyan Market and hit on the cliff on the west side of Guiyan Valley. From a high vantage point, he observed every passing cultivator. Wu Yi didn't notice anything amiss. After heading south and leaving returning Wild Goose Market, he flew east on his sword. As the #1 assassin of the Blood Shadow Mountain's northern branch, Yu Lang naturally had his own unique way of recognizing people. From Wu Yi's movements, he recognized him and followed behind Wu Yi from afar. Green Wolf wasn't stupid, and he was quite capable. However, his reaction speed was a little slow. After Yu Lang left, He continued to deal with his affairs. After dealing with his identity token, he felt that something was amiss. He remembered that Yu Lang was here for him, to record his identity. Yu Lang didn't receive any messages along the way, so how could he have an emergency? If there was an emergency, he wouldn't have needed to make a trip himself. He could have just sent a subordinate. Yu Lang might have guessed that Wu Yi was exchanging for the Yin Yang purple jade, and went to kill him. Thinking of this, Green Wolf couldn't be bothered to deal with his affairs anymore. He had to report this matter to the Hall Master. In order to keep this a secret, he personally went to Scarlet Fox's cave and reported this matter to her. When Scarlet Fox heard about this, she also felt that Yu Lang might want to make a move on Wu Yi. She was the one who personally recruited Yu Lang into Blood Shadow. She naturally knew that Yu Lang was a vicious and merciless person who would do anything to achieve his goals. After changing into a rogue cultivator's outfit, she also left the underground branch. After finding out from the shopkeeper of the Immortal Welcoming Tower that Yu Lang had asked him about Wu Yi's whereabouts, she also flew towards the south on her sword. Wu Yi's flying speed was extremely fast. In just 15 minutes, he had flown a few hundred miles and arrived at the meeting place with Wang Daoyuan. After Wang Daoyuan left Clear Glass City, he also flew towards the meeting place on his sword. His flying speed was even faster than Wu Yi's, so he arrived at the meeting place a little earlier than Wu Yi. After meeting up, Wu Yi's doppelganger passed the storage bag to Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan didn't say anything and directly put the storage bag into the Spirit Pearl's space. Foundation establishment rogue cultivators often appeared in this area. Putting away a storage bag wasn't very conspicuous. However, if he put away a living person, it would attract attention. Therefore, he didn't put Wu Yi into the Spirit Pearl's space. The two of them flew towards the east on their swords. Both of them had learned the Gudyuan sword art. Their flying speed wasn't slow, and Wu Yi wouldn't be a burden. They didn't notice that Yu Lang was secretly following them from a few dozen miles behind them. Scarlet Fox had left a spiritual sense imprint on the Yin Yang cub. She could sense the Yin Yang cub's position within 2,000 miles. After Wang Daoyuan put the Yin Yang cub into the Spirit Pearl's space, Scarlet Fox could no longer sense the Yin Yang cub's position. She flew on her sword and chased after the Yin Yang cub. Yu Lang wasn't a sword cultivator. With Wang Daoyuan and Wu Yi flying at full speed on their swords, he couldn't keep up. He could only take out his flying magic tool and chase after the two of them. This magic tool was an upper-grade second-tier boat-type magic tool. Its speed far surpassed that of flying swords. After a few dozen breaths, he and Wang Daoyuan were only 2,000 feet apart. Wang Daoyuan naturally noticed Yu Lang. He was chasing after them with his flying magic tool. Obviously, he didn't come with good intentions. He asked, "Daoyu, why are you chasing after us?" Yu Lang laughed. "Manager Wu Yi naturally knows why I'm here. Hand over what I want, and I'll let the two of you go." Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan guessed that this guy was Yu Lang. He took out the other fiendish tiger sword from his storage bag and slashed at Yu Lang. As the #1 assassin in Shanbei, Yu Lang's skills weren't weak. With a wave of his hand, a flaming long blade appeared in the air and slashed at the fiendish tiger sword. However, his flaming long blade wasn't as powerful as Wang Daoyuan's flying sword. It was split into two. Yu Lang waved his sword and repelled the fiendish tiger sword. Wang Daoyuan withdrew his fiendish tiger sword and laughed. "You dare to chase after the two of us with just this bit of skill?" Yu Lang wasn't afraid at all. He stared at the sword in Wang Daoyuan's hand and sneered. "A flying sword refined from a tiger's fang. You really are that Wu Chuan from the Mirror Treasure Lake Oasis. The soul-extinguishing bell is in your hands, so Qi Yin should have died by your hands. The inheritance should also be in your hands. My cultivation has been stuck at the pinnacle of Foundation establishment for nearly 100 years. I didn't expect to find the inheritance, and only hoped to open the Violet Palace. Who would have thought that the hope of opening the Violet Palace and the inheritance would come knocking on my door? Brat, hand over what I want, and I'll spare the two of you." Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan immediately understood that Yu Lang was Qinji. He curiously asked, "You're Qinji?" "I'm curious. Back then at the Mirror Treasure Lake, you were a coward. Where did you get the guts to fight me head-on?" Yu Lang disdainfully said. I don't really care about your little bit of skill. I'm afraid of that Zhou guy. Don't think that you're the only one who can see through his identity. If I offend him, I'll definitely die. Which cultivator doesn't want to live for a few more years? I'm not looking for death. Chapter 354. This place was only 1,000 miles away from returning Wild Goose Market. He did not know how powerful Qinji was. If he did not use his trump card, he would not have the confidence to take him down. Rogue cultivators often pass by this place. If he used his trump card, it was very likely that his trump card and identity would be exposed. Qinji's eyes turned red when he saw the Yin Yang cub and the inheritance of the 10,000 corpse spiritual master. Wang Daoyuan controlled the flying kite and flew towards the east with Wu Yi's clone. He increased the flying kite's flying speed to 4,000 miles per hour, with Qinji following closely behind. His flying Dharma artifact was extraordinary. Without using much spiritual power, his speed surpassed the flying kite's. Wang Daoyuan controlled the flying kite to maintain its speed, while Wu Yi used spells to attack Yu Lang behind them. This could suppress Yu Lang's speed and prevent him from overtaking them. Yu Lang's fighting ability was very strong. Wu Yi had to use 2 or 3 spells to block one of his offensive spells. Even so, Yu Lang's speed was still affected. He was suppressed more than 100 feet behind Wang Daoyuan. The three of them quickly flew more than 1,000 miles to the east. At this moment, the black-robed scarlet fox arrived at the place where the Yin Yang cub disappeared. She spread out her spiritual sense and covered dozens of miles. She only found a chi refinement cultivator searching for spiritual herbs. Scarlet Fox landed in front of the Chi Refinement Cultivator and asked, Did you see a Peak Foundation Establishment Cultivator pass by here 15 minutes ago? The Chi Refinement Cultivator felt the powerful spiritual power fluctuations from Scarlet Fox and hurriedly knelt down. Senior, 15 minutes ago, 2 seniors met more than 10 miles to the east. Then they flew towards the east. Not long after, another senior chased from the west on his sword. No one else passed by. My cultivation is low, so I wonder what the cultivation of these 3 seniors are like. This person did not know anything useful, so Scarlet Fox did not kill him. Otherwise, it would be a waste of time to clean up the corpse. She took out her flying sword and chased towards the east. More than 2 hours later, Wang Daoyuan and the other 2 arrived at the edge of the sky/mountain range. Wang Daoyuan landed on the ground and kept the flying kite. Subsequently, 2 tiger fiend swords flew out, slashing towards Qinji, who was in the air. When riding a sword to kill an enemy, the speed of the flying sword was much faster than when riding a flying sword. Even though Qinji was riding on a flying magic tool, his speed was not as fast as the flying sword. He took out a small round shield with a diameter of 1 foot and injected his spirit energy into it. A shadow of a shield with a diameter of more than 3 feet appeared. The 2 tiger fiend swords slashed at the shield shadow, but it didn't move at all. The flying swords were deflected. Wang Daoyuan put away the 2 tiger fiend swords and said, Tier 3 defensive artifacts, interesting. Let's see how long you can last if you're at the peak of the foundation establishment stage and forcefully drive a 3rd-rank magic tool. Wu Yi continued to use the myriad sword art to attack the shield phantom, consuming Qinji's spirit energy and divine sense. Wang Daoyuan's main body, on the other hand, condensed the heaven-cleaving sword and gave him a vicious blow. Although the shield in Qinji's hand was a level 3 magic weapon, he was only at the peak of foundation establishment and could not unleash much of its power. Wang Daoyuan's heaven-cleaving sword might not be able to destroy the shield, but it would not be much of a problem for it to shatter the shield phantom. After 3 breaths, a 40-foot-long giant sword shadow appeared. Wang Daoyuan controlled the giant sword shadow and slashed at Yu Lang. Qinji saw that Wang Daoyuan's attack was too powerful and did not have the confidence to block it. He activated the flying magic tool under his feet and dodged the giant sword shadow. The giant sword shadow was very powerful, but its speed was its weakness. The flying magic tool under Qinji's feet could fly more than 4,000 miles in 2 hours. It would not be easy for him to hit it. If his speed was not enough, he could make up for it with an escape technique. As Wang Daoyuan swung his sword, he used the cloud mist escape. If the cloud mist escape was used for a long time in the water, its speed would not be as fast as sword kinesis flight. However, it was much faster than sword kinesis flight for a short distance. Wang Daoyuan's cloud mist escape could allow him to travel more than 50 feet in an instant. He condensed a black cloud and instantly disappeared into it. When he reappeared, the giant sword shadow also appeared from the cloud and slashed at Qinji. The giant sword shadow suddenly disappeared and suddenly reappeared. He had no time to dodge, and could only use the shield phantom to block the attack. The shadow of the giant sword and the shadow of the shield collided, and then both of them shattered. The shield in Qinji's hand was not damaged at all, but he was sent flying by the force of the impact. He only stopped after breaking a few trees. After he landed, he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. He stood up, put away his flying magic tool and shield, and took out a fiery red long sword. Wang Daoyuan said with disdain, "With this little ability, where did you get the courage to ask me to hand over my things?" Qinji did not reply. The long sword in his hand surged with spiritual energy. After 3 breaths, he waved the long sword and condensed a huge wave of flames towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan did not understand the situation and did not dare to block it. He used the cloud mist escape and dodged the first wave of attacks. Wu Yi's clone also used the myriad sword art to attack Qinji. Unfortunately, he was too weak. Qinji did not need to divert too much energy, and just cast a few spells to suppress him. Taking advantage of the time when Qinji was dealing with Wu Yi, Wang Daoyuan began to use the heaven-burning divine fire technique. After a few breaths, the divine bird by Fong finished condensing. The huge wave of flames rushed towards him again. Qinji was still waving his long sword, and the huge wave was getting bigger and bigger. The Beiyuan Phantom had the ability to control fire, but it could not take the fire attribute spells cast by the opponent as its own. It could only continuously extract flames from the huge wave to strengthen itself. Qinji was still waving his long sword, trying to make the huge wave of flames stronger and control it to attack Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan did not fight him head-on. He kept using the cloud mist escape to avoid the attacks. He controlled the Beiyuan Phantom to continuously extract the fire attribute spiritual energy from the huge wave, exhausting him to death. Qinji spent a long time, but the huge wave of flames did not expand. Instead, it kept shrinking. Qinji knew that if this continued, he would be sucked dry by the Beiyuan Phantom, and he still had to deal with Wu Yi. He dispersed the huge wave of flames and turned to control his flying sword to attack Wang Daoyuan. This flying sword seemed to be a 3rd-level low-grade magic tool. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to take it head-on, and used the cloud mist escape to dodge. However, this flying sword was much faster than the cloud mist escape. He could not completely dodge it, and could only brace himself and use his flying sword to take it head-on. The Tiger Phantom sword in his hand collided with Qinji's flying sword. Qinji's flying sword was sent flying, and his Tiger Phantom sword was also severely damaged. The Beiyuan Phantom had absorbed enough fire attribute spiritual energy, and its wingspan had exceeded 300 meters. It spat out a huge mouthful of flames at Qinji. After Qinji caught the flying sword, he immediately dodged. Unfortunately, his speed was far slower than the Beiyuan Phantom, and the flames chased after him. Qinji could only parry, and had no strength to fight back. Wang Daoyuan also began to condense the sky-cleaving sword, preparing to kill him in one blow. Qinji patted the storage bag at his waist, and a refined corpse wearing black iron armor appeared out of thin air. This refined corpse had an extremely dense corpse aura. It was a 3rd-level low-grade refined corpse. Wang Daoyuan was not afraid of this refined corpse. A 3rd-level low-grade refined corpse was only slightly more resistant than a 2nd-level high-grade refined corpse. An ordinary peak foundation establishment cultivator might not be able to take down this refined corpse, but Wang Daoyuan had the Earth Divine Thunder. The 5 elements Divine Thunder had the power of heavenly thunder. It could hit heretic cultivators, refined corpses, and little ghosts accurately. He no longer used the sky-cleaving sword, and instead began to condense the Earth Divine Thunder. After many years of practice, he could now release 3 bolts of Earth Divine Thunder in one breath. One bolt of Earth Divine Thunder was 30 times more powerful than a second-level high-grade golden knife talisman. The refined corpse pounced at him, and he rode the kite into the sky. No matter how strong the refined corpse was, it could not fly. It could only jump high and pounce at its target in the air. It could also wave its hands and release sword chi like claw marks. Wang Daoyuan dodged calmly in the air and kept releasing Earth Divine Thunder to hit the refined corpse. The refined corpse's spiritual activity was extremely low, and it could not dodge the extremely fast Earth Divine Thunder. Every bolt of Earth Divine Thunder that hit the refined corpse left a fist-sized hole in its body. The corrosive effect of the Earth attribute spiritual power came into play, and a sizzling sound was heard. The refined corpse kept moving its body, trying to avoid the corrosion of the Earth attribute spiritual power. However, just as it ran, it was hit by a few more bolts of Earth Divine Thunder, and was once again enveloped by the Earth attribute spiritual power. Wang Daoyuan fought with the refined corpse for half a cup of tea's time, and after releasing more than 50 bolts of Earth Divine Thunder, his spiritual power was almost depleted, and he finally crippled the refined corpse. After crippling the refined corpse, he immediately took out a jar of spirit peach dew and drank a few mouthfuls to recover his spiritual power. Fortunately, the Beiyuan phantom no longer needed spiritual power, and he only needed to control it with his divine sense. However, the Beiyuan phantom had absorbed too much spiritual power, and it was very stressful for him to control it. On the other side, Chen Ji was being chased by the Beiyuan phantom and Wu Yi. 20 breaths later, Wang Daoyuan had recovered about half of his spiritual power, and he rode the kite once more, releasing Earth Divine Thunder to chase after Chen Ji. Chen Ji's body was incomparable to an inferior grade 3 refined corpse, and he was on the verge of death after taking 5 bolts of Earth Divine Thunder. Before he died, he shouted indignantly, "I've planned for 100 years, and yet I've fallen to such a state. I can't accept this." Wang Daoyuan ended his life with a single bolt of Earth Divine Thunder. After keeping Chen Ji's corpse into the space of the Spirit Pearl, he heard a voice that was clear and domineering from the mountains. "Who are you, thief? How dare you kill my man?" Chapter 355. Wang Daoyuan naturally recognized who it was: the Shanbei branch's hallmaster Scarlet Fox. She was a veteran Violet Palace realm cultivator, and Wang Daoyuan had seen many Violet Palace realm cultivators. Scarlet Fox's spirit energy fluctuation was the closest to Yang Yang's, and she should be a mid-stage Violet Palace realm cultivator. With his current strength, if he encountered an ordinary early-stage Violet Palace realm cultivator, he should be able to escape unscathed after exchanging 2 moves like Shi Jinbang did in the past. But when facing a mid-stage Violet Palace realm cultivator, it was impossible to escape unscathed, and he would be extremely lucky to be able to leave alive. After hearing Scarlet Fox's voice, he immediately rode the kite and fled towards the depths of the heaven/mountain range with Wu Yi. At this moment, he was already able to see that there was a person wearing a black robe and riding a fiery red flying sword 5 or 6 kilometers behind him, chasing after him. Her flying speed was extremely fast, and her speed was at least 3,700 kilometers in 2 hours. If that was all, it wasn't much, as she was slightly slower than Wang Daoyuan's flying kite. Wang Daoyuan had already entered the heaven/mountain range, and Violet Palace realm cultivators didn't dare rashly enter. But he underestimated a woman's desire for revenge. Scarlet Fox didn't even hesitate, and directly entered the heaven/mountain range. Afterwards, another flying sword flew out from Scarlet Fox's hand and headed straight for Wang Daoyuan. The Beiyuan image that Wang Daoyuan condensed hadn't been activated yet, and it had always been by his side. But the image had absorbed too much fire spirit energy, and it consumed divine sense extremely quickly. He'd wanted to withdraw the Beiyuan image since long ago, but fortunately, he didn't have the time to withdraw it, and it came in handy now. The Beiyuan image spat out 3 fireballs at the flying sword, but they were easily slashed into sparks that filled the sky. Afterwards, Wang Daoyuan controlled the Beifong image to extract fire spirit energy from the flying sword. Although the flying sword was extremely fast, and the Beifong image couldn't extract much time, it was more or less useful. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan was an entire 6 or 7 kilometers away from Scarlet Fox. Violet Palace Realm cultivators were only barely able to reach this distance. The flying sword's might and agility were greatly reduced. In addition, the Beifong's shadow had been extracting the spiritual power of the flying sword, so its power had not reached the point where he could not shake it. Wang Daoyuan did 3 things at once. He controlled the Beifong's shadow, the flying kite, and began to gather the Earth Divine Thunder in his hands. His Earth Divine Lightning was only at the 3rd level. If he used it against someone at the peak of the Foundation establishment stage, he would be able to severely injure them in one blow. Even an early-stage Zifu disciple would be heavily injured by this technique. But when dealing with an intermediate-stage Violet Palace Realm cultivator like Crimson Fox, who wasn't even a heretic, it was slightly insufficient. However, the Earth Divine Lightning was extremely fast, so it was quite useful against flying swords. With the speed of the kite, the flying sword could not catch up in an instant. He continued to unleash Earth Divine Lightning at the flying swords. A series of explosions rang out, and the speed of the flying sword was greatly reduced. After unleashing 7 Earth Divine Thunders, the flying sword was finally repelled. The continuous use of the Earth Divine Lightning had worsened his already small reserve of spiritual energy. He immediately drank a few mouthfuls of the spirit peach wine. Since he didn't have time to refine it, he could only rely on his body to automatically absorb the spirit wine to restore his spiritual power. After drinking the spirit wine, he would immediately begin to restore his spiritual power. In order to restore all of his spiritual power, he would still have to wait for dozens of breaths. But now that he was being chased by a middle-stage Zifu disciple, life and death could be decided in the blink of an eye. The flying sword was knocked back. Crimson Fox caught it, saying, "You little thief, your strength isn't weak. To think that you were able to cultivate the Earth Divine Lightning to such a level." By now, Wang Daoyuan had already closed the distance to roughly 7 kilometers. Even a middle-stage Zifu disciple would find it hard to harm him. He laughed. "If I don't have a woman in my heart, my magic will naturally be divine. But for a lady like you to chase after 2 men, where are your manners?" This time Crimson Fox was enraged. Fire spirit energy surged from his entire body as he put away his flying sword, transforming into a fire phoenix and pouncing towards him. This speed was much faster than the kite. Some high-level evasion techniques could be used by cultivators below the golden core stage, allowing them to traverse the skies for a short period of time. For example, the meteor evasion technique Shizhenbang had used back then, as well as the fire phoenix before him. Seeing that the distance was getting closer and closer, Wang Daoyuan really wanted to slap himself twice. He was used to scolding others normally, and had nothing better to do. Whenever he saw a beauty, he would want to tease her. Crimson Fox praised him, and if he said a few nice words, she might stop chasing after him. Now that he had angered her to the point that she had even used an evasion technique to traverse the skies, wasn't he courting death? In merely 10 breaths of time, Crimson Fox had caught up to a distance of 200 to 300 feet behind Wang Daoyuan. Relying on the Beifong Phantom to extract fire spirit energy was completely useless. How long would it take to extract the spiritual power of a middle-stage Zifu disciple? Controlling the Beifong Phantom, he smashed towards the fire phoenix. The Beifong Phantom, with a wingspan of over 1,000 feet, contained an ocean of fire spirit energy. Even Crimson Fox had no choice but to be cautious. When the Beifong Phantom smashed over, she dodged. Wang Daoyuan would not let go of this opportunity and directly detonated the Beifong Phantom. Instantly, 1,000 feet wide sea of fire appeared before Crimson Fox. She could not guarantee that she could pass through unscathed, but she did not want to be burned as well. Hence, she could only circle around. Cultivators below the Golden Core realm could not maintain traversing the skies for a long time to begin with. They could only rely on a spurt of energy. After dodging and circling, Crimson Fox's energy had already dissipated, and her speed was greatly reduced. It was difficult for her to continue. She also knew that it was impossible for her to catch up to Wang Daoyuan, and started to cast spells to attack. The fire phoenix phantom opened its mouth and spat out a stream of flames towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan did not dare to release his water dragon art. Otherwise, if she recognized him, wouldn't she massacre the entire Wang family to vent her anger? Controlling the flying kite, he dodged a few times. Unfortunately, the spells of a Zifu disciple were aimed at the target. Using his water attribute spirit energy, he executed the Black Tortoise Sword Shield, a sword cultivation spell of the Origin Return Sword sect, conjuring a shield phantom in an attempt to block the flames. When the flames struck the sword shield, half a breath later, both the flying sword and the shield phantom were burned into ashes. In a moment of desperation, Wang Daoyuan took out the Mystic Ice Jade Marrow to block the flames. Initially, he thought that the Mystic Ice Jade Marrow was finished. To think that he had underestimated its power. Under the stimulation of the flames, the Mystic Ice Jade Marrow released a large amount of ice fog. The flames were completely extinguished, and the Mystic Ice Jade Marrow was unharmed. This time, he did not dare to run his mouth, and headed straight towards the depths of the heaven/mountain range. Crimson Fox dispersed the Phoenix Phantom, and landed on the ground. The spirit energy on her body was still intense. Suddenly, a flying sword appeared in front of her. The spirit energy on the sword far surpassed the previous two swords. It was her destiny dermic weapon. At that moment, the distance between Wang Daoyuan and Crimson Fox was around 6 miles. At such a distance, spells would not be powerful, and the flying sword would not be able to unleash 100% of its lethality. However, this flying sword was a destiny dermic weapon after all, and could not be underestimated. Its speed was extremely fast as well, and it covered the distance of 6 miles in an instant. Wang Daoyuan did not have time to dodge, and could only use the Tiger Fiend sword that Chunji had heavily injured to block it. The Tiger Fiend sword was instantly burned to ashes, and the fiery red sword flew straight towards Wang Daoyuan's back. It was time for the clone to show its effect. Wang Daoyuan controlled the clone Wu Yi to use the golden armor art to block his back, while he used the earth armor art himself. The flying sword was too powerful, and the defensive spell was instantly broken. The flying sword pierced through Wu Yi's right collarbone. After piercing through Wu Yi, it broke through Wang Daoyuan's earth armor art, and pierced through his left shoulder blade. The tip of the sword came out from the front of his body. The two of them were pierced through, and the sword pierced through his heart. The blade was less than half an inch away from his heart. Fortunately, he had the mystic jade golden silk armor that his younger brother gave him. This item was personally refined by Taoist Lei Yan, and its defensive ability was extremely strong. Although it was only second-tier upper grade, and could not block the flying sword, it was able to wear down the flying sword's strength, and the spirit energy attached to it. Otherwise, the fire attribute spirit energy on the flying sword would be enough to burn his heart to ashes. Even so, the remnant fire attribute spirit energy seeped into his meridians and burned many of them. His lungs were severely damaged, and his wounds were charred as well. Wang Daoyuan wrapped the sword with water attribute spirit energy and ground away the fire attribute spirit energy on the flying sword before forcing it out. At that moment, Scarlet Fox used his spirit consciousness to retrieve the flying sword. Although Wang Daoyuan managed to escape, the clone Wu Yi was brought back by the flying sword. Since he could not even protect his own life, he could not care about his clone. Wu Yi's memories had been altered by him, and did not know his secrets. Even if he was lost, it would only be a split soul. At that moment, the distance between Wang Daoyuan and Scarlet Fox was more than 7 miles. By the time she retrieved her flying sword and injected spirit energy into it, Wang Daoyuan was already more than 10 miles away. Wang Daoyuan barely escaped death. When he saw that Scarlet Fox was no longer chasing after him, he heaved a sigh of relief and thought to himself, Zhou Xian, that fortune teller, is really accurate. It's truly a love calamity. Chapter 356. At this moment, 20 to 30 li east of Wang Daoyuan, a tiger's roar could be heard. From the sound of it, it should be from a rank 3 tiger-type demon beast. Wang Daoyuan was severely injured, and his spirit energy and spirit consciousness were greatly depleted. He did not dare to stroke the tiger's whiskers. Immediately, he changed his direction and flew towards the southeast. Initially, Scarlet Fox wanted to continue chasing Wang Daoyuan. However, when she heard the tiger's roar, she had no choice but to give up. The commotion from the battle earlier on was too great and alarmed the rank 3 demon beasts. If she continued chasing, these rank 3 demon beasts might not care about Foundation establishment cultivators, but they would definitely deal with her, a Zifu realm cultivator. She was still carrying the dying Wu Yi, and was extremely curious as to why Wu Yi would block the sword for his opponent. Putting away her destiny dermic weapon, she took away the remaining fire attribute spirit energy in Wu Yi's body. Thereafter, she fed him a few healing elixirs and flew towards the west with Wu Yi on her sword. She was a Zifu realm cultivator. If it was a Foundation establishment cultivator, they would not have the ability to fly on their sword. Scarlet Fox did not dare to put Wu Yi into a spirit beast bag either, because spirit beast bags could only barely sustain living beings. Demon beasts could rely on their strong physical bodies, or hibernate abilities, to stay in spirit beast bags for long periods of time, without causing severe damage to their bodies. Humans did not have strong physical bodies, nor special abilities such as hibernating. If they were kept in spirit beast bags for a long time, their lives might be in danger. Most chi refinement cultivators could only stay for a day or two, while Foundation establishment cultivators could only stay for 3 to 4 days. After coming out of spirit beast bags, they would also enter a weakened state and require a long time to recover their combat abilities. Mortals could not enter spirit beast bags either. They would definitely die if they entered. Therefore, even in the era where countries fought for hegemony, there were very few situations where spirit beast bags were used for sneak attacks. As long as they were discovered by the enemy, they would basically be sending their heads to their deaths. At this moment, Wu Yi only had a single breath left. If he was kept in spirit beast bags, he would probably not even last for half a cup of tea's time. In Wang Daoyuan's situation, his injuries were only slightly lighter than Wu Yi's. After drinking spirit wine twice, he still had a lot of spirit energy, but not much spirit consciousness. He released Li Qingchuan from the space of the spirit pearl, and let him control the flying kite. He took out the spirit gathering pearl, and used the blue dragon pearl to extract vitality to heal himself. His external injuries quickly recovered, but his meridians needed some time to recuperate. As for the sword that pierced through his lungs, it would be difficult for him to recover without a year or so of rest. Moreover, this was under the condition that his would attribute spiritual energy had its own vitality. If it were an ordinary cultivator, such a serious injury would definitely leave behind a lifelong illness. If one's cultivation was hindered, even their lifespan would be affected. Although he was seriously injured this time, he had at least obtained the yin-yang purple jade. He had also personally sparred with a Zifu disciple, and had gained some understanding of the Zifu disciple level. It would also be helpful in establishing the Violet Palace realm. He did not plan to return to the Jade Spring Peak. Instead, he headed to the Five Elements Mystery Realm. After spending a few years in seclusion there, and recovering from his injuries, he would establish his Violet Palace in the Secret Realm. With the concealment of the Secret Realm, there was no need to worry about the secret being leaked. After all, he was a member of the Netherworld sect. Once he opened his Violet Palace, he would have to go to the Netherworld sect to take up a post, and accept the Netherworld sect's summons at any time. It would be very difficult for him to have the opportunity to travel outside. It would be better for him to establish his Violet Palace in the Elemental Mystery Realm, and then use the Aura Concealment Art to conceal his cultivation base. As long as he didn't come face to face with Golden Core cultivators, he wouldn't be discovered. It wouldn't be too late to expose himself when he couldn't hide it any longer. He didn't encounter any danger on the way. When he arrived near the Elemental Mystery Realm, he put Li Qingchuan and Feiyin into the space of the Spiritual Pearl. He walked to the outermost door of the Elemental Mystery Realm and took out his token to open the door. As soon as he entered, a foundation establishment cultivator attacked him, but Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and repelled him. After taking a closer look, he discovered that it was his 27th brother, Wang Daojian. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan recalled that he still maintained the appearance of Wu Chuan. He returned his appearance to normal and asked, "What? You don't even recognize your 7th brother? When did you establish your foundation? How come I didn't know?" Wang Daojian let out a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "So it's you, 7th brother. I saw that you looked like a stranger, and thought that an enemy had invaded. My 17th brother, 18th brother, and I were arranged to secretly establish our foundation here. I'm still considered a bit late. My 2 brothers have been here for more than 30 years. The 17th brother of the Dao generation was Wang Daoheng, who was good at brewing wine. The 18th brother was Wang Daoping, who was good at concocting pills. Both of their main spiritual roots were more than 7 inches. They were both potential foundation establishment cultivators. However, Wang Daoyuan rarely cared about the trifling matters of the family, so he didn't know much about them. He took out the inheritance of the Beiyuan sword sect from the space of the spiritual pearl and handed it to Wang Daojian. He said with a smile, "I already knew that you were suitable to walk the path of a sword cultivator. This is the inheritance of the Beiyuan sword sect. Unfortunately, it's incomplete. There's only the sword controlling technique and a few spells. There's no way to condense sword intent." Wang Daojian took the jade scroll excitedly and said with a smile, "Thank you, 7th brother. This is enough." Wang Daoyuan walked into the mystery realm, while Wang Daojian continued to look at the door. After entering the mystery realm, he greeted Wang Daoheng and Wang Daoping, and burned a few sticks of incense for the 5 elements spiritual master. Then, he entered the underground cave under the altar where the 5 elements heaven suppressing seal was. This was the core of the 5 elements mystery realm. He could recuperate here and prepare to break through without worrying about being disturbed. The injuries on his body couldn't be healed in a short period of time. He needed time to recuperate. Taking advantage of this time, he wanted to see if Chunji had anything good on him. There were 7 storage pouches hanging on Chunji's waist. Wang Daoyuan opened them one by one. The 6 storage pouches were filled with coffins. 5 of them were high-grade second-tier magic tools that contained high-grade second-tier refined corpses. There was also a low-grade third-tier magic tool that was empty inside. The coffin should be the third-tier refined corpse that he killed with the Earth Divine Lightning. The 7th storage pouch finally contained something useful. First was the boat-type flying magic tool. It was very similar to the crane feather boat, but it was made of higher-grade materials and flew faster than the crane feather boat. However, its weakness was also very obvious. It couldn't take a beating. It was stronger than the crane feather boat, but not by much. Its practical value was far inferior to the flying kite. Such a weak magic tool shouldn't have been left behind by the 10,000 corpse spiritual master. Next, he took out a fiery red longsword. It was the same one that Chunji used before. This sword was a low-grade third-tier magic tool. The words Prairie Fire were engraved on the side of the sword. It seemed that this sword should be called the Prairie Fire Sword. The power of this Prairie Fire Sword was indeed quite good. If he didn't know the divine fire burning heaven technique, he would have been able to suppress this sword. Perhaps Chunji didn't even need to take out the refined corpse. He could easily defeat him with the Prairie Fire Sword. There was also a small round shield in the storage pouch. It was also a low-grade third-tier magic tool, but there were no words engraved on it. The main material of the shield was third-tier glaze flames mysterious iron. Its strength was quite good. A foundation establishment cultivator wouldn't be able to break it. It just so happened that Wang Daoyuan's 2 high-grade second-tier Tiger Fiend swords and mysterious jade golden silk armor had been destroyed. These 2 magic tools could be used first. There were only a few second-tier magic tools left in the storage pouch. Wang Daoyuan really didn't care about them. Apart from the magic tools, there were some talismans, medicinal pills, and a few thousand spirit stones. Not to mention that this guy had obtained the inheritance of the 10,000 corpse spiritual master. Even if he was just the #1 assassin of the Blood Shadow Mountain's northern branch, He shouldn't only have such trash. Could it be that he had placed all his wealth elsewhere? It was definitely impossible for him to place it in the Blood Shadow Mountains branch. That was Scarlet Fox's territory. If he placed his things there, they might not be his anymore. It was possible for him to place them in the Yellow Spring Secret Realm. However, the location of the Yellow Spring Secret Realm had already been exposed. With Chunji's craftiness, the possibility of him placing them there wasn't too high. Chunji was already dead. If he placed them somewhere else, they wouldn't be able to find them anymore. Wang Daoyuan had Li Qingchuan search Chunji's entire body. In the end, he found a ring in the bottom of his boots. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.